How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses on VGJProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, Still.
Fenurian.
And Volosel, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week that was. But first of all, if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord server, which I don't think has been bought out by Microsoft yet.
Not
That
yet.
might be soon. But you can join us in our Discord server by going to the link provided in the comments. No, that's not the comments. The what do you call that thing? Yes, the video description on
You're
YouTube.
brain farting.
Yes, I'm sort of wondering about this cave situation that I'm currently in. So I'm a little bit distracted. But yeah, you can join us in our Discord server and you can talk to the show hosts at any time, and you can post memes of varying degrees of spiciness. I don't think we are going to get banned because we don't have enough members of our on our Discord. So if you want us to get banned, I guess you can contribute.
I'm trying as hard as I can some weeks, and they just won't do it.
We have at least two sections which will probably just get us banned outright.
The politics section and what's the other one?
Probably the politics section again.
I'm pretty sure you can find something of at least modest spiciness in most of our boards, but yeah, it's it doesn't take much these days. It doesn't take much. All you have to do is think the wrong thought, offend the wrong person, get involved in the wrong discussion, and that'll be all she wrote. But yeah. So we always appreciate communication from the people that listen to the show, because it makes it easier for us to fill time if you guys provide us with content.
So we don't need to do as much work. So, on the stream today, I'm playing a bit of Evil Genius 2, and it's the game that took up most of my week. So, I'm going to like this. I'm going to say I like this game. But that's not going to stop me ragging on it for the next however long I'm ragging on it. Because it's got shoes. And not even Brian Blessing could save it.
I mean, to be fair, the original had shoes as well.
The original had bugs.
Well, I mean, those are a type of shoes, aren't they?
They are most definitely a type of shoe. So, the whole idea of this game is to build yourself an evil lair, and then ultimately build yourself a doomsday device and take over the world.
Is the lair really evil, though? That sounds a bit judgmental.
Bits of it are. So, I'm just going to run this on medium difficulty, because I tried to play hard difficulty and I've got a bad case of killer robot infestation going on, so I might need to start again on my main game.
Killer robot infestation.
Yeah, they're not my killer robots.
Are they anybody's killer robots, or are they killer robots just sort of like cockroaches?
They're somebody's killer robots. I'm trying to recruit a new henchman, and she didn't take it so well, so she replied with killer robots. You know, as you do.
I don't know, it seems rather uncivil to me.
Yeah. So it is a good, fun game. It is very silly, very cartoony. And it does play around with the 70s an awful lot.
The 70s, eh?
The 70s. Alright, here we go. So there are some new features that they put in over the original game. The big one being multi-level bases and the ability to have more than 100 minions. Being the big ones. Also...
Like, when you multi-level, you mean like multiple floors?
Multi-floors, yeah. Like the first game, you reach the halfway point of the game and then you just move to an entirely new island. And you need to build your base up again in a very great hurry because you've got the super agents already hanging around and they just want to blow shit up.
Also rather uncivil.
Yes, very, very rude. Now, let me see how I'm going to do this. Did I not turn the... Hang on, I'm going to restart this so I can turn the tutorial off because it is annoying. Quit title. There we go. So yeah, I think the first game though had the benefit of there was really nothing in that game that just didn't need to be there. which is not something that's really carried over to the sequel. And I'll show you now that I've turned the tutorial off. I'm going to go. I go to Montes Gemales. No, I'm not. Go to this one. There we go. So things have been simplified, like traps. If you put them in combo to each other, they now just link up automatically, which is really nice. Most of your combos will involve pinball bumpers, just so you know. But they've got a few fiddly things, like you don't start with a henchman. You need to recruit your first henchman, which is mostly just send a minion out onto the map and go get them. After that, every henchman has a story mode quest, which you need to fill out in order to get them to join you. That means, though, is when you first start out, agents are going to cause you an enormous amount of grief because you can't do nothing about it. Your worker minions are absolutely useless in a fight.
So, what do you just rush a part of a tech tree that will allow you to recruit or something? I don't know.
Basically, yeah. You want to rush your guard minions, or get your genius in to help out. I just forgot to turn the tutorial off again. Oh, whatever. I'll just do the tutorial. So yeah, you do have a full story mode, which is nicely voice acted as well by Brian Blessed in this case. Yeah. So I do like the game. There are things which we're going to objectives here. You go optional objectives. Now, normally this screen here would actually have a full complement of just random objectives, which give you a piddling amount of money, and the whole thing seems to exist just to create extra busy work. Doesn't really need to be there. The world map has been changed around as well. You've got your 5 forces of justice groups. No, they're not divided along political lines anymore. They're divided completely geographically. So what that means is there's really no purpose behind the world map being a world map. Because first and foremost, the I can't words. Their names don't necessarily mean anything anymore. But also all the missions out on the world map are generic. There's no, like, go to France and steal the Eiffel Tower. It's just...
What?
Yeah. It's just
Why
go
not?
to a place and do a thing. And the place is completely arbitrary.
But that doesn't really have a supervillain feeling to it, if you ask me.
No. Like, you're doing evil things, and in a lot of cases, very silly things.
Generically evil
But
things.
they're generically evil. It's nothing... There's nothing to tie it to the actual world. Like, the first game, you go to France, you steal the Eiffel Tower, and then you get a radio broadcast with a slightly racist accent telling you what happened.
How's it racist? I don't really understand.
Well, yeah, they weren't really. They were just extremely exaggerated and rather silly. And that's
There, you realize that you live in the country that has Steve Irwin, right?
Yeah.
And his
Yeah,
accent is
Steve
natural.
Irwin.
And the first Evil Genius game, the radio announcer was essentially Steve Irwin.
I mean, what I'm saying is basically that even if you think they're an exaggerated accent, somebody's got that accent.
Somebody's got it. It exists. What do I need? What does it want me to do? Add a barracks. Okay, I'll do a barracks. Alright. So yeah, this is basically your gameplay loop. Is you build up your lair, you manage your minions, and then you send them out into the world to do things. The way the world now works as well is you send your minions out and you don't get those minions back. That's once they're out, they're gone. They're just done. They're a resource to be spent. But thankfully, unlike the first game, is if you lose your last minion of a given type, provided you have the training equipment place, then the minions will just train themselves. Like the first game, if you ran out of, say, you ran your last guard, unless you had something that was higher tier, like a marksman or whatever, then you'd have to go out into the world and kidnap another guard to train up guards again. So thankfully that's not an issue anymore. Research is just your standard tiered tree now. It's nothing fancy like that first game was. What am I doing? Messel. There we go. So yeah. I'm just going to keep picking away at this. It just, it's hard to say exactly what's wrong with it for the most part. It just seems to lack a lot of the kind of the heart that the first game did.
Is it made by the same team?
No.
Yeah, that might be part of it.
I think the lead developer of the original game is off working for SpaceX now or something.
I see. It just struck me that the sort of the humor and spirit that sort of characterizes the original Evil Genius was very. You could tell it was a particular group or a particular person's sort of creative vision.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have someone who comes along and then tries to imitate something that already exists, it very rarely comes out quite right.
Yeah, it just doesn't.
Because
feel right.
comedian's humor tends to be part of themselves. Like that's why so many comedians are screwed up people.
Yep. So yeah. It is still an enjoyable experience. It's still funny in its own way. It doesn't lean too heavily on the memes, thankfully.
Yeah, that's become a real disease in humor.
Yeah. I think another part of it is the graphic style. Like, if we zoom in on Mr. Minion here, actually, I think he's the generic workman minion, him. Yeah, they don't all look the same anymore, which is nice. Although it does make it even more alarming when you see, like here, two of the same guy walking down the hall. But it's got that kind of exaggerated pseudo cartoony style, which is everywhere now.
Yeah, it was a bit more of a novelty once upon a time.
Yeah.
Like, I guess that. Where would that have really started?
Well,
I feel Warcraft 3 was probably one of the major influences early on.
Warcraft 3, you could argue the first Evil Genius.
I don't think that there was enough sort of penetration of that game that it had a lot of influence. It was definitely an early user of the style, but the thing about Evil Genius is that almost nobody played it.
Yeah, it was very, very niche.
It was played by all the people who liked Dungeon Keeper.
Yeah.
And actually happened to hear about
actually played Dungeon Keeper.
But Dungeon Keeper was also in an era before, well, gaming in general hadn't gone mainstream at that point.
Yeah. So, yeah, like the art style matches with what you'd expect for an Evil Genius game, based on the first one. But it's also an art style that's just generic now. Unfortunately, it's a very nice art style. It's it's inoffensive. I think is probably the best word for it.
Well, I think the purpose of that art style from a pragmatic point of view is that it ages very slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Like your game doesn't immediately look dated. And I think that's part of the reason why it's become so popular is because the bar for having good graphics in the classical sense of the term has gotten so ridiculously high.
Yep.
Like it's like, Call of Duty's photorealism sort of thing is what people expect now from quote good unquote graphics.
Yeah.
And that's just not a practical level for most developers to reach because of the sheer amount of money that it costs to get there, the sheer amount of time it takes to generate a texture at that level.
Yeah.
For everything.
Everything is simplistic. You can immediately tell what something is just by looking at it. It doesn't take as much development time because everything is just usually very simple colors. So yeah, it's just everywhere. Honestly, there was a bit of a boom when Fortnite really took off as well for it. Because everyone was just going, oh, let's ape Fortnite.
Oh, well, the thing with Fortnite's approach, though, I'd say is probably more about running it on every conceivable device.
Yeah, there's also that advantage as well.
I mean, Fortnite, probably most of the players are playing on portable devices at this point.
I don't want to think about that because that means I'm reminded that people actually play Fortnite.
Well, I mean, if you've ever seen a little kid who grew up with tablets playing an FPS, it's freaking bewildering to look at because they are able to perform mouse and keyboard tier level of performance, but it's by, flickering their fingers over a tablet.
Yeah, it's sorcery is what it is.
Yeah, it's very strange to watch. You can't deny that they're skilled with that interface device, but it's very weird to watch for somebody who mouse and keyboard is what they grew up with.
Yeah, you just look at it because how are you doing that?
I dread the day when they start phasing out mouse and keyboards and trying to force everybody to switch touch devices.
You could argue the attempt has already been made.
Well, the thing is that the attempt has been made a number of times, and it hasn't stuck largely due to the imprecision of it as an input method. But that type of drawback doesn't last forever. It's just lasting until that technology is at the right level and strikes at the right place at the right time.
So
I'm going to be paying Corsair or Red Key or whoever's making keyboards at the time a premium to get the big keyboard with the pop-out keys that push when you push them. Oh, man. I look forward to that.
Yeah. So,
well, I mean, we've seen that process rotate through once already in a very a very sort of a level that exists beyond most people's attention, which is in terms of mechanical keyboards, because you got to remember mechanical keyboards used to be the norm. That used to be how keyboards were constructed, and when they moved to the much cheaper, mass producible sort of the rubber thingies that are used now on most.
What do they call those things?
I don't know, but there's a name for them. I just can't remember what they're called.
The thingies.
When people moved to those, a lot of people sort of rebelled against that because they felt that it was an imprecise input method. And as far as it goes, there's some truth to that. But there were suppliers who were willing to manufacture those, and you could just buy bags of mechanical switches for keyboards now.
They come with mine. It comes with all different flavors and kinds of switches. Do you want it to be accurate and have a loud click? Do you want it to have a soft click? Do you want it to be harder to press? All kinds of flavors and colors of switches, and when you buy the keyboard, it comes with like 30 extra switches of each color and type with a little color code on what each color means.
They've sort of semi-standardized them into those different colors now. They have different, depressed lengths and different weights and resistances and so on and so forth, depending on your precise requirements. And like most such things, it's I would say that a lot of the discernment between them is at a level that is pretty much delusion. But the market demanded it, and it was supplied. So
yeah. All right. So yeah, that's a tangent, is what that is. But that's also Evil Genius 2. I'm going to keep playing it during the show. And yeah. Unfortunately, a good amount of the game does involve just kind of sitting around and waiting. That's what I'm doing at the moment because I've had to bury my power plant right back in deep. You don't want to leave your power plant up to the front because it gets blown up. As for the rest of my week, haven't done a whole lot more really. Haven't even really watched a whole lot of anime. Though I have been getting increasingly salty over a couple of things. Firstly is Amazon, because I pre-ordered Monster Hunter Rise back around Christmas. And when you pre-order a game from Amazon or something, you think, oh yeah, it'll be here on launch day or around launch day. No, No. It launched on Saturday. They waited until Thursday to ship it. The Thursday after launch, by the way. So I have no idea when that's going to turn up. That's assuming Australia Post doesn't eat it.
Yeah, you keep an eye out for those dingoes with the package around their neck.
Yeah. I think that might be more efficient, honestly, some days. And the other thing is...
I've always had good experiences with Australia Post. They deliver here really quickly.
Yeah, they deliver overseas really quickly, but not in Australia. If you're inland Australia, you don't exist. Yeah, there's nothing out here but, spiders and spiders. Maybe some more spiders. And the other thing is, I've been still banging away trying to sort out this stupid green screen issue with my my graphics card.
Yeah, you were very excited. You sent me a bunch of messages. I think I got it. I think I fixed it. Hooray!
Nope. Yeah. So I did another deep dive on the internet to try and find yet another solution to it, and I think I found it. Oh, there we go. Power's back on. Which involved scrubbing every inch of drivers from my system and then reinstalling it without the whole supporting software that ships with all these graphics cards. And that seems to have worked for, 90% of the games. Except for one. One game I do tend to play a fair bit of. And that'd be Minecraft. Minecraft still causes the crash. But at this point, I'm just willing to take the win and leave it at that.
Yeah. It's got to be something with the way your graphics card processes Java.
Yeah, I think it might be. Like, normally if I fire up X4, and if anyone's played an X game in the past, you know that these games don't like any computer. And if you try and point out a bug to the developers, they usually get rather snotty about it. If you want to kill a computer, you load X on, you crank it up to full graphics, and then you just let it sit for 10 minutes. But thankfully, X4 doesn't kill it. I used to have an interesting bug with that game, actually, where on an NVIDIA card, my old NVIDIA card, where you'd play the game for maybe about 5 minutes, and then every single texture on the screen would shatter. So it was yeah. Every polygon, every texture would just explode, and you'd end up with some sort of kaleidoscopic hellscape.
I see.
So that was fun. And that's a bug that the developers get extra snotty about. Because they know they can't do anything about it, because that one's apparently entirely on NVIDIA's end. So, yeah, I'm just going to take what win I can at this point. I'm not going to argue with it any further.
Yeah, just eventually you're going to have to replace that thing.
Eventually, but yeah, like it still works 90% of the time, 95% of the time. As for other stuff, anime, nah. Watch the first episode of the new season of Hero Aka, which is a very nothing episode. The second episode actually starts the plot moving again. And it picks up pretty much exactly where the previous season left off. Which means the previous season ended with Endeavor actually getting character development. And that's where it starts again. It's still with Endeavor. Who looks really weird without the fire.
I'm not caught up. I haven't been watching it. Haven't been keeping up with it.
Yeah.
But, there was a whole bunch of like for some reason, for whatever reason, that particular mangaka seems to be like ground zero for crazy people.
I think, yeah.
I don't really understand why. I bet shippers did this.
Oh,
probably.
most certainly.
But the Hero Aka has what's a good way to put it? It's the modern the current day big shonen that everybody likes,
Yes.
at least a little bit. It does. So its detractors are the crazy people.
Well, I think it's also that we're in a phase where there's only one.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one really big one that everyone's always talking about. Like the other sort of pretenders to the Shonen throne, like Black Clover and Jujutsu Kaisen and all those, they never really ascended to the level of runaway popularity that Hero Aka did. It is simply because Hero Aka is better in a lot of ways. But I think that prominence has pretty much gathered all the crazies under one banner. So before, a lot of those crazies were diverted into thinking about things like warring with the other fandoms over whose preferred show was better, but that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
there's
and
only one.
it's also, current year with the current year issues that are being discussed all the time, which lead to the most toxic environment possible.
Can we not talk about current year, please?
I mean, I guess we can go nostalgia the whole episode if you really want to.
I'd much rather, but also because and I'm not actually saying, let's not talk about 2021. I'm saying let's not talk about current year.
Current year specifically.
Current year specifically.
Because anybody who thinks in terms of current year is probably not worth thinking about.
It is the most dishonest train of thought you could possibly have.
Well, that's what these people think like, though. They do think in terms of current year.
Of course it's dishonest.
Yeah.
But I every time I hear about Hero Aka in the sort of the internet news lately, it's because some other crazy person has sent death threats to the author.
Yeah. I wonder if he collects them.
If you're a mangaka in current day and age, then you probably have a shelf where you just keep the best ones to pull out and read again after a while.
You frame the best ones and put them up in the gallery.
Yep.
And here is the crazy person who threatened to pull my spleen out through my nose.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And that one's fairly tame compared to some of these death threats that I've seen. What is wrong with people? Seriously. Other anime... The new season is just getting started. So there's not really much to talk about on a lot of these shows until they get the 3-episode test. Actually, is there anything in particular I was actually looking forward to?
I can't really say anything about it because I haven't watched any of the new stuff yet. Normally I would start my watching on Saturday night, but I was busy, so I didn't really.
Yeah.
And I don't really know what stuff is coming out that really will gain my attention. I was a bit disenchanted with the last season because it looked like it was going to be really good going in, and honestly, I was just quite disappointed all up.
Yeah. There's a few others I'm interested in watching. Like, I won't mind watching Slime Diaries, even if Ranga looks like a bear for some reason. It's just, it's the slime isekai is just a slice of life to go with it. Because,
lots of very silly stuff happens in that world. After all, Gobta lives there.
Gotta milk that cash cow. There is
Well,
Shaman King, which is getting revived after, I don't want to think about how many years.
A very long time.
Yeah, I never watched it before, but I do remember back in 2005 it was actually on television here. But I wasn't watching television at the time, and it was a horrible dub, so...
It was on one of the Saturday morning cartoon slots, I think.
Wasn't it a Funimation dub from back in the day?
I don't know who was
Because
responsible.
they did all worse dubs.
Well, that's actually back in the 4Kids era. You'd take Funimation over 4Kids in most cases.
Yeah.
And if it was during Justin Cook's era at Funimation as the head ADR guy, then it's probably pretty good. That's where we got our Cowboy Bebops and our Yu Yu Hakusho dubs.
Yeah.
Well, it was an era where they actually took, directing seriously, because they needed to push top quality stuff to get a foothold in the market.
Mhm.
So
Well,
they were regardless of their hits and misses, they were always at least trying. But nowadays there are people who just take whatever dub gets crapped out.
Yeah.
yeah, it's they had to secure a TV slot, which means they had to get people to actually watch their crap.
Yep. Who
So they
remembers,
cared back then.
By the way, who remembers the Deke dubs?
They're in my brain, in the back of my head.
Deke? Yeah, it wasn't
As-
Dick, it was Deke.
I remember when they added their name to the logo, they would say their name and go with that little kid going
Little kid,
Deke.
Deke. Yeah, it's just to stop kids saying Dick.
Because it blatantly said dick.
It was, yeah, it blatantly was. But they had this habit of picking up an anime and they'd run a dub for like half the seasons and then they'd just stop. So there's a lot of really good anime that they picked up and they never finished them.
Yeah, it was probably just because of how hard it was to buy slots.
Oh, I'm trying to remember the name of the big one that really annoyed people was the one about the demon dolls.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Zatch Bell.
no.
Oh, Zatchbell.
Mm.
I don't know whether or not they showed that here. I can't remember.
Yeah. They ran that anime until it just started to get good. And then they just stopped. From what I understand, actually, because I watched up until that point, and then I could never find it again. I could probably find it on, Dodgy Bob's anime,
Honest Bob's.
Honest Bob's. But from what I understand, that series really takes off just after that point.
I remember when Toonami, the big anime block in the US, finally just gave up and said, "Okay, we'll do a Saturday evening slot, right before the Adult Swim block started, where they could finally air the rest of the shows that got too violent for the primetime TV."
Okay, that's an interesting thing I didn't know about Evil Genius 2 is for a lot of the cutscenes, it looks like what the genius says is the same regardless of which genius you're playing.
Oh, what?
That's lazy, because all 4 geniuses have very distinct personalities.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be the good bit.
Yeah.
To see how, because that's really what that game sold itself on originally, was personality.
Yeah.
And if you're just going to homogenize that, then what's the point, really?
Yeah, well, they've already homogenized the world map. Now they've got access to it. Have a look. So the first game you had, here's the biggest one, which is Saber, which is the green here. Saber originally did UK and Europe. I think they did Iceland as well. And Australia. Basically the old British Empire. Also the Indian subcontinent. Now, they're South Africa. Well, they're just Africa. Just all of Africa.
If there's one thing that we know about Africa is that it will never ever be united.
No, it will not. Considering Saber's super agent in the first game was a James Bond XP. I have no idea who the super agents are in this one except for Smashers, which is the yellow. And it's apparently some luchador who carries a bomb around.
There are a lot of jokes involving the type of people that would come from that region of the world being secret agents. And I'm just going to bite my tongue really hard.
Please do. So, yeah, like, Smash was the weird one in the first game because it was, like, South America, the Middle East, and Antarctica originally. They just kind of got South America and whatever was left over. Patriot used to be, like, Northern America, Canada, Iceland, actually, I think was... I can't remember, actually. Which way did it go? Not Iceland, Greenland, sorry. And Japan, for some reason. Australia is now lumped in with China. You know, the thing that we're trying our absolute hardest to avoid doing right now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the UK is lumped in with Russia. So, yeah. It also means that the agencies really don't have a lot of personality anymore either.
Why would you make? What I'm trying to think about is why would you make these choices? What are you aiming for when you make these choices?
It looks like what they were aiming for is just to have the agencies all based just on geography and only geography. So you've got all of their territories are now adjacent to each other instead of like having a bit of green here, a bit of green here, and a bit of green over here.
So what you're actually saying is that they're trying to avoid anything that could be interpreted as political commentary.
Quite possibly, yeah.
Because there's not actually, the way it's presented, there's not actually a practical reason why you should bother.
Yeah, because like the first game, all the agencies, it was countries you could see working together. Or except for Smash, which has just got whatever was left over. But like now, Hammer used to be the old Soviet Union and Cuba. But now it goes all the way across just Northern Europe. It's just all of this.
I don't know. I think that's political commentary.
Yeah. Anvil used to be like East Asia. I think it had a bit through kind of here somewhere, half of the Middle East, down through the Pacific Islands. And now they got Australia. And now they got the Middle East. And now they got India. These two countries, this bit here and this bit here, are really getting tired of this bit here. So, yeah. Anyway, that's just that. I'm not sure if it's laziness they've done it, because... let me see. Can I zoom in on... This is an example of just a go-get money quest. You can set up a criminal agency, which will just passively generate money, which is nice now. But, okay, this is just the generic one. But all of them are like that. It's like, go to a place and do a thing, but the thing will have very little bearing on where in the world you're actually doing it. I still don't know what these headquarters buildings are for yet. So anyway, where were we? I'm going to leave my week at that, because it's becoming a bit of a mess. It's become a lot of a mess.
Alright.
Vol, what have you done?
What have I done? Well, I wasn't at work all week. I only worked 2 days this week. I didn't want to work any more than that. But despite this, I still didn't have a huge amount of time to play, although I had a bit more than normal, because this is, of course, Easter. So I spent most of my time going to the chapel, and then back home, and then back to the chapel, etc.
I love that.
So yeah, I walk. I could drive, but that would be lazy, and I need the exercise. So so yeah, I wasn't overblessed with a huge amount of free time, but well, it's not. That's actually not true. It's not really that I didn't have free time. It's that I'm very bad at relaxing when I know I've got something I need to do later.
Yep.
Like, I'm not the sort of person who can go into downtime for 2 hours in between tasks.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a situation where, oh well, I've got to go to this liturgy at 3 o'clock. After I would go to one in the morning at say 11, and then I have another one at 3. So I've got like 2 hours, and for that 2 hours, I can't really do anything because I'll be thinking about, oh well, where I have to go and what I have to do later. So I wasn't really able to focus on much of anything. So all I really played for the most part in that downtime was Fate Extella. And in fact, through all of the gaps of downtime that I had over the course of the Pascal Triduum, I ended up getting all of the achievements in Fate Extella. So in some it was actually quite a bit of time, but in what terms that I tend to find practical, it was not actually that much time. So, but yeah, I did that. I played a huge amount of that, I suppose, since it was my go-to, to the point where I feel like I've more or less played it out at this point for a while. But yeah, Ari was right about Darius.
Oh no!
Like,
there's not really any tactical reason to play any character other than Darius because he's so overpowered. And as far as I can see, It's simply a matter of reach. More than anything else. It's a matter of reach. Because he's so tall and because he's so big, you don't ever have to try. Nobody can get close enough to hurt you because your arms are so long. And so long as you continually flail your axes around, you're basically immortal.
Just keep on
Now-
slapping.
Yeah. Now, that actually turned out to not really be that relevant because I don't know if there's some mathematical issue or something in the way they set the game up, the game's sort of maths and stats, but if you socket on a full grid three split skill install skills which all have obstinate attached, what I found was that once you have a skill set up like that, no enemy seems to be able to reduce you below 99% health. Like, defense stops calculating.
That seems like a bug.
Yeah, I never found damage taken to be a big enough problem in that game that I paid that much attention to it. But
Well,
I
you were
can see
playing
it.
Darius most of the time. Like,
I played Astolfo most of the time. I only switched to Darius for
Well,
a couple
Astolfo-
to try him out.
Astolfo never stops moving,
Yeah,
which is sort of characteristic of the riders. And Darius is so OP that it sort of hardly matters what you attempt to do. But yeah, in the event, I found that basically it didn't really matter what I did. It didn't matter how sloppily I played, or whether I just stood in the middle of the battle and turned away to look at something else. That I wouldn't ever take enough damage for it to matter, because it would get to 99% and then it would just get stuck. And they would never reduce me below 99%. I don't know why that first 1% was a freebie. It's probably some sort of crude calculation check to determine whether or not you've taken any damage.
Yeah, so if you've got anything, it's just going to show 99% rather than 99.9 whatever.
Yeah. But, yeah, so that made the game almost trivially easy in terms of damage taken. But of course, damage taken, once you get sort of past the first few levels, tends not to have any real impact on anything. The issue is everybody else's damage taken. Because as per the vast majority of Musos, your allies are retarded.
Yeah.
Deeply retarded. In profound and irritating ways, they are retarded.
Sometimes I swear they go out of their way just to do the dumb things.
Yeah. But yeah, so at any rate, I cleared all of the achievements on that, which is mostly the ones I'm missing were just sort of grindy ones that are, oh well, you've got to accumulate this much bond rank or whatever, and you know, I hadn't exactly prioritized raising my bond with Guy de Ray on account of him being cray and disturbing and an icky boy. But
He's generally icky.
Yeah, he's icky in every conceivable way. There's not really any specifics necessary. I've just dug myself into a huge hole here, and I don't know which way is out.
Oh, don't do that.
But yeah, so yeah, I played that. As far as FGO is concerned, I guess I finished the event storyline. Not that it was terribly long, but yeah, so it's one of the more important event storylines as far as FGO stories, event stories go, because most of them aren't that significant in a lot of ways. Like I can't remember what the actual canon. I can't remember what the actual canon is around those. I think that they're sort of like the events that sort of they take place, but they also don't take place at any particular point in the storyline. They're just kind of there. That's why people who are no longer members of the cast can appear in them. But yeah, as far as that's concerned, this event is one of the ones which is something that canonically happened, something that is, you know, definitely a part of the story, and part of this is because it provides a sort of prelude to the next Lost Belt, and then it's sort of largely focused on the Indian servants.
and you know, it has one of the big bads in it.
Yeah, Is one of the big bads. Although it's sort of hard to gauge how big and bad they are, since the sort of the detail on beasts is, from what I gather, it gets sort of clarified as the story goes along, because beasts are not like designated by fate or anything. They are like grand servants, who are the things that are supposed to oppose them, and that you can meet the requirements to become one. Like they're something that you qualify based on certain characteristics to become a beast. So it's not so much that the likes of Kiara and Kama always had the ability to be beasts, so much as it's not that they were preordained to be beasts, so much as they became individuals that had all the qualifications of a beast. The counterpoint to that, of course, is that Kiara has the capacity to become a beast in every iteration of her existence throughout all of the setting. So every parallel universe where Kiara exists, she always has the capacity to be a beast, but she doesn't always become one. So there's obviously something inherent about her that makes her a beast, but she's not always going to be one. And the way the story plays out, Kama and Kiara as they exist in FGO, is that they are larval beasts rather than complete ones. So yeah, it's sort of something that's not very clear, like a lot of the lore in the Nasuverse. There's a lot of wiggle room, which is very convenient for the writers, I'm sure. Because it allows them to take liberties.
No doubt.
Nasu's got to give the writers enough wiggle room so that the whole point of the Nasuverse, look at all these big expansive rules about how our universe works. This story is about how we break them.
Yeah, that's the most consistent thing in the Nasuverse, is that Nasu will not stick to his own rules. If he has made a rule, the only reason he has done so is so that he can have it broken in a dramatic fashion later.
Yeah, he's very good at that. I think
for some reason it doesn't come off badly, like in most fiction where that's done, it's purely in order to make someone into a Mary Sue. Whereas the sorts of Mary Sues that Nasu makes tend to have horrible things happen to them as a result of their pseudom. Like, like for instance, Shiro stroking out, attempting to use his abilities, and that sort of thing. But that's a pretty hefty drawback, even if you do have a regeneration factor.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the event was kind of interesting, and I as much as it was a little bit corny, it was very Nasuverse, and I enjoyed how it all came to a conclusion. I really liked Kasuna no Tsubone. I think that she was a very refreshing character to have in the mix, on account of she's not like she is in no way is her character directed at sexuality, which is what you usually get from female characters
especially
in a gacha.
This one.
Yeah,
especially considering what Kama's entire shtick is being a degenerate. Like that's how she's operating the story.
What's her easier to say title? Lady starts with a K. I'm brain farting.
Huh? Who?
The girl that owns the Oko.
Oh, her actual name as opposed to her given name? Oh, I can't remember offhand.
It's like Lady Kagi or something like that.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's no, it starts with a K.
Yeah. I guess we'll look it up on Wikipedia, since it was her. I think it was her birth name.
She has a title that's just Lady Blank. It starts with a K.
That's what people who knew her personally would have called her. Where's her? Fuku. Yeah, her name's Fuku. It doesn't start with a K at all. I don't know where you got that from.
I am. I'll dig it up, because that doesn't sound like what I'm thinking.
No, that's what that's what Munenori calls her throughout the story. Lady Fuku.
Yeah. Okay.
Saito Fuku was her name. But yeah, I enjoyed her sort of she's written as a properly sort of maternal character as opposed to Raiko, who is written as sort of a twisted berserker version of a maternal character. So it was sort of nice to have her in the story. And lots of people were very upset that she never came out as a servant, but maybe she'll show up later on, because I mean she does have the qualifications to be a servant, since the storyline more or less demonstrates that, because you know she's the sort of person who will have the Oku as her reality marble if she ever became a servant. On account of the association formed there. It's a similar principle to the pseudo reality marble that Iskandar has. But yeah, I enjoyed her character. I enjoyed the story. I thought that it was reasonably solid. It wasn't up to the level of CCC in terms of sort of like dramatic heft, but it was still quite enjoyable. And I sort of found Karma kind of amusing as a villain, because she's more or less just a brat, and her character is as other than her like screaming inferiority complex that she has toward Kiara for some reason, she seems to more or less be like, she's like as a goddess, she's like a lazy civil servant that does the bare minimum required not to get sacked.
Oh no.
Like she got burned for doing her job properly, and as a result she never does her job properly anymore. And when I say she got burned, I mean that literally.
Oh dear.
Yeah, she's still on fire even after putting herself back together.
Oh dear.
Yeah, well, that's actually, I think that's actually described at some point as being a facet of her sort of neuroticism and hatred over the end that she met, rather than that she is actually that on fire. But it has, the story involves a lot of very Nasuverse sort of rule twisting, because everything on a metaphysical level, and this is one of the things that it's always kept me interested in the Nasuverse in general, is the way that while the metaphysics are a bit incoherent, at least it has them, unlike most fictional settings.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the way the story operates in this case is based on the weight of concepts, basically, and how concepts relate to each other. And so spoilers, the linchpin of Kama's plan is that, she gets destroyed by Shiva as the god Kama. Back when he was a male, he got destroyed by the god Shiva for doing as he was told, because that appears to be his lot in life. And because the means by which Shiva destroyed Kama was the means that is known for being the means by which the universe can be destroyed, it created a conceptual synchronicity between the concept of Kama and the concept of the universe, which enables Kama to enact a plan that is carried out in the course of the story. So that sort of very Nasuverse twisting of the relationships between things is on full display there. And I really enjoy the way they do those stories, because if you understand the rules of the Nasuverse, you can see them coming, but if you don't, then it's completely alien. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But yeah, so yeah, I enjoyed the event, and it was the most grind-friendly event that we have had in quite some time, which is a huge relief considering how many events they backed one onto the other over the course of the past couple months.
For the amount of effort you have to put in to grind this event out, like, you get a ton of junk.
Oh yeah,
basically no work.
It's very generous. It's very generous. It's a godsend to all people who haven't been playing for a while and have got skills to level and servants to ascend.
Now I'm out of QP.
Yeah, so did I.
Materials.
It totally bankrupted me on QP as well. Like, I was down to, I think, 4 figures, or it might have been 3 figures of QP. I'd used so much.
Yeah.
Because I just got showered in materials. And well, I need some of those, and I need some of those, and I need some of those.
I had to go break doors to get Kama her last ascension eventually. because there's just so many materials floating around.
Yeah. So I'm under attack by bugs again. Great.
By bugs.
This game is actually kind of okay. So what I'm currently playing at this minute is I decided to poke at Deep Rock Galactic, which is basically Minecraft if the point of Minecraft is to just shoot things. But-
Space dwarves.
It's very claustrophobic to play solo. Like you're alone in the dark fighting swarms of horrible things that are trying to kill you.
I found it. Lady Kasuga. That's her easy to say name. They say once.
Well,
or
that's
twice
just
in
an
the story.
abbreviation of Kasuna no Tsubone. That's not her actual name. Fuku is her actual name.
I thought it might be different than Kasuga no Tsubone.
Munenori
But,
calls her by Fuku because he knew her throughout her whole life.
Yeah, but that's the name I was thinking of. It's just her normal name.
Yeah, because that name is more of a title than a name, I suppose. But they've got a lot of naming customs in Eastern countries. You get names based on your birth, based on your occupation. You even get names after you're dead.
I have to know a character really well in Japanese mythology if it's got hyphens or blank no blank. Although, because it's just too much from our brain to put in a file cabinet under names.
But yeah, so this game is. I'm sure a lot of people have played it who are listening to it because it actually got really popular. What I don't understand about it is how expensive it is. Because it is like, when it's not on sale, it's like $40. And from what the people who have played it that I've talked to think that it is 100% worth that much, even though, but the thing is that none of them actually bought it for that price that I know of.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So even if it's a $40 game in terms of the fun and entertainment that you can get out of it, they would get so many more people playing it if it's $20. Like, this game has, from what little I've played of it, has the feel of a game that would have been a real niche smash hit if they had just not made it so expensive.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And it also feels like that there was literally no reason to make it so expensive, because they would have made it up in sales much more easily than they're going to make it up in sales at the price that it currently is. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. There are much cleverer people than me who work in marketing. So maybe all of these sort of actuarial calculations have already been done. But and I'm sure they have to some extent. But the game really seems like it would be really, really popular if it was just half the price, so that lots and lots of people could play it.
There's a few games around like that.
Because I feel like $40 is just a bad price point for a game in general, unless you are like Arc System Works. There are a few companies that can do a $40 game, but for a sort of a small studio, $40 seems like a really bad price point, because it's a price that it's not throwaway money. People aren't going to take a risk on it the way they would on, say, $20 or even $30.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it's just not a wise price point to be at. Like, it's not risk taker money. Even if the game is that good, it's just not risk taker money. If you can just shower the market and people who are playing the game and talking about it, you're going to make that up in terms of sales. And that's the feeling I get from this game, is that it seems like it's going to it would be able to fill that niche. But I haven't played that much of it yet. I'm just sort of dicking around in the low levels and getting attacked by bugs all the time, crawling out of the woodwork.
Gotta get
But,
them bugs.
It's definitely very obviously calibrated to be played by lots of people. But for those that don't know, it's basically you are a space miner dwarf. So you are in space, you're a dwarf in space, and you're a miner because you're a dwarf, because all dwarves are miners, obviously. That's not racial stereotyping, is it? But
Jeez.
and basically you will just go on a dig, basically, and you'll proceed through a cave system. And you will get variously attacked by things, and there'll be environmental hazards to traverse by doing various things. But mostly, you will be prospecting and mining. And then you will use the prospecting and mining to arm yourself better to get rarer stuff to mine, I guess. That seems to be the gist of it. But yeah, it's quite fun as a game to just sort of mess around, and it's got that cumulative aspect because you're acquiring stuff and you're acquiring XP towards whichever class you happen to be playing at the time. Not that I know what leveling up does since I haven't done it yet, but yeah, it seems like a good muck around game, which is why I am playing it during the show, since it doesn't require a huge amount of attention except when you're being besieged by bugs. But yeah, I'm interested to play some more of it.
I think
When
I
it goes
will
on
try
sale,
it.
I want to rope you guys in when it goes on sale.
Well, we're going to have the summer sale coming up soon.
Yeah, that's just the only thing about it is it's prohibitively priced. $40 is just a skosh too high to get somebody to leap in blind.
Yeah.
I did think about playing on that same note. I did think about playing Persona 5 Strikers as well, but it was the same deal, right? Even though it's a higher tier of game, it's just, the price is sitting at that point where it's just, what, that's not risk taking price.
Yeah,
$113. I'll just keep the $113 and pay my rent. Thanks.
Yeah, these games aren't like Jump Force where it's like it's selling AAA price for a C rank game. This is just that little bit too much. But yeah, it's not outlandish. It's just a little bit too high.
Yeah. It's like, especially nowadays, if we were still in, the 2016 to 2020 economy and it was all looking great and booming and I could expect more money the next year than I did the previous year, yeah, I might throw $40 at something for funsies.
But instead, you and I are both working in businesses that are trying to stay afloat rather than thriving.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the world we live in right now.
Tis indeed. Tis indeed.
But yeah, I'll probably cajole you guys into trying it out next time it's on sale, provided that it's a decent sale. I haven't seen very many decent sales for it. There've been quite a few that are very small.
I've seen it go up for like 10-20% every now and again.
Yeah, I really think it would do so well if they would just, be less stingy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at the most recent sales on Steam. Number one, because if I do see something I want, it'll be money spent that I really shouldn't spend, and it'll take me way too long to get around to playing it. And number two,
it'll just go on the backlog. That's why I've stopped buying things on Steam sales, because everything goes on the backlog. Yeah, it's like, when am I going to play it? Like I've owned Deep Rock Galactic for quite a while now, and I'm just starting it for the first time today because when am I going to play it? I'm not made of free time.
Yeah, and if it's not that, we just kind of bought everything by now that we want from the Steam sales. There ain't a whole lot left in the old from the Steam library.
Anything that we didn't buy got bought for us at Christmas time.
Yeah, like my Steam wish list at the moment is it's not so much stuff I just want to go and buy when it's on sale. It's more kind of I might buy it at some point, maybe.
It's like my Steam wish list is, I guess I should have one in case my birthday or Christmas comes up, because I keep forgetting about it.
Like, if someone gives me this game, I won't say no.
And most of it's like, yeah, I'll play it eventually, maybe. It's just...
yeah. I think my wish list is sitting about 110, I think, now. Hang on, let me have a look. Wish list, 112. I probably should do a clean out of this, but I mean,
No, just let somebody else clean it out for you at Christmas time.
Buy me all the Monkey Island games, someone. You want to. I will play them. Actually, I've already played most of them. I never have played Escape from Monkey Island, though.
Is that the fourth one? The really weird oddball one? That was
that was 3D for no apparent reason.
Yeah. I think Curse of Monkey Island is my favourite one. I think it's the best balance of accessibility and quality graphics and humour and that. Like,
plus it has the pirate song.
I've played some of it does have the pirate song. I played some of the other ones, but they never really stuck to them long enough to finish because the puzzles were often really inscrutable.
Yep. Tales from Monkey Island was good, but it had the Telltale Games problem.
Which problem were you referring to exactly?
It was made by Telltale Games. So, yeah.
I
Especially
like
at that
it.
point where, like, the early trailers for Tales from Monkey Island, they reuse character meshes from the Back to the Future game.
Did they
Which
now?
means you had, inexplicably, Guybrush was Marty McFly's dad for no apparent reason. But once they fixed that out for the actual release, then a lot of the characters still just look the same. Like, Guybrush had a unique model and animation style, as did Stan and the Voodoo Lady. And that was it. Everyone else was recycled.
I see. I didn't know about any of that. I kind of enjoyed it. I thought it was good, and the story was well written, generally speaking. There were some things about it that I didn't like the whole everything was just as planned by Elaine. That whole thing was like, nah, it would have been easier just for it to be a coincidence would be more believable than that it was planned.
Yeah, that was a bit of a stretch. Like, okay, Elaine is intelligent. Well, at least intelligent by Monkey Island standards.
But this is like Ozymandias from Watchmen.
Yeah, this is just let us tweak the threads of reality type dealy going on here.
Yeah, like if she was an oracle, she couldn't predict like this.
Yeah, like it had the Voodoo Lady stumped. And the Voodoo Lady tends to be the most, like, on-tune character in that universe.
Well, I mean, that was part of the story, though, right? Is that everything was orchestrated by the Voodoo Lady. That's sort of like the conceit that they're playing with.
Yeah, like things had to happen a certain way, so she kind of just pushed things a bit to make them happen, which usually meant sending Guybrush off on some completely harebrained scheme, which somehow got her results. I do like the Voodoo Lady, though.
Yes.
She's a lot of fun. And still, all these years later, nobody knows her actual name.
I wonder if she was ever assigned one in development.
Probably not. So,
Well, Guybrush has his name because that was his file. That was his file name in the first game.
And it just kind of stuck. I guess Voodoo Lady just kind of stuck as well. But yeah, I'll play Escape, but eventually. But I mean, I've got the remakes of the first 3 in there now, and they're actually really good.
Yeah, most of the Telltale ones I've played have been likable. I didn't play the Back to the Future ones though.
Back to the Future was okay.
I only played the Monkey Island ones and Tales from the Borderlands and the Strong Bad's cool game for attractive people.
Strong Bad's game has not aged well.
It hasn't aged well, but it's still funny.
It is still funny.
It's funny to me, but for all I know, that means that it's boomer humor.
Let's not think about that. But yeah,
you're really struggling with the march of time, aren't you?
When I can see 40 on the horizon, I don't want to think about that. Okay, this game is telling me to do something incredibly unwise. I've got Red Ivan here, and it is telling me to use my ability. Okay, it wants me to do just use an ability. Okay, it's not the other one. The other one is pull out rocket launcher and go ham. Incidentally, there is no outside the base in this in the sequel either. That was where Red Ivan was at his most effective, was you send him outside. That way he can't break your precious and expensive machinery. Anyway, we should probably take a break.
Alrighty.
Alright, let us tune that up.
All right, folks, here's some music. We will be right back. And we're back.
With more whatever's going on here.
All right, where were we? I think we were at False Week still.
Right. So last thing I'll talk about, the anime that I watched, the end of the last season, basically was disappointing. But in a sense, I'm not really surprised by that because most of the ones that were finishing were just not very good. How do I put this together? So LBX Girls ended with, and then they succeeded in their mission and everyone went home. The end.
Yay!
Like it's something which was probably just designed as a marketing tool. It was even a little bit subpar for that, but not as subpar as some that I've seen. There's not really anything worth commenting on there. Don't bother watching it. You're not going to get anything out of it. You're not even going to get more. I think even expecting light entertainment from it might be a bit much.
It's just, that it's purely in don't bother territory.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. Not because it's bad, but because it's not good enough. And in fact, you could make an argument that it's bad. It'd be easier to make an argument that it's bad than that it's good.
Oh dear.
But it's not like screamingly bad. It's just bad in a boring, generic way. The supposed kid from the Last Dungeon Boonies moved to a starter town that ended in a, and then the adventure continues sort of way. So they foiled the trivial plot of the bad guy, but
honestly,
the bad guy's motive was to try and make the main character a hero all along, and that's why he's become a villain, is because he is not able to die until he is no longer designated as the hero, and the only way for him to lose the hero class is because he's immortal. He never dies. And the only way for him to lose the hero class is to get somebody else to inherit it, which means they've got to go through a dramatic hero's journey.
I see. But Lloyd didn't, really.
Well, the thing is that all that's necessary is for him to go through it. Like, he if you look at things from Lloyd's point of view, he's like useless.
Yes.
He doesn't comprehend at all what's going on around him because he's got the wrong perspective. But he's got to grow into a hero, which means he's got to get over his complete lack of self-confidence, etc. But it's all more or less a moot point because they foil the plot at the end, which is in a kind of daft way, and then the bad guys leave, and then that's pretty much it. The story just sort of is, and then they will be back next week with another plot type of thing. But yeah,
I'm
so
so glad I stopped watching that one.
Yeah, you're not losing anything. You're not losing anything at all. Let's see. Jujutsu Kaisen ended in a totally blah way. I don't think it's doing any more this season. I think it's finished at 24, and it's basically they have a big fight. It looks pretty cool. Then the story is over because it looks like it's building to a shonen long runner, and it's only bought a 2 core, so there's not anything else there. So I haven't watched the last episode of Black Clover, which aired this week, so I can't really say anything about that yet. What else? Is there anything else? I think mostly the stuff that I haven't actually watched. What's happened? The Spider one, I think, is finished. It gives me kind of a finished impression for the season.
It definitely feels like an end of season moment.
Yeah, it feels like an end of season for sure, but it also didn't accomplish anything throughout the entire season.
Yeah, she faffed around in a cave for 12 episodes.
Yeah, more happened on the other side of the story than happened to the spider. Yeah. So I don't really. I wasn't particularly enthralled by it. I was not impressed at all. Not a very good deployment of that. Yeah, so that basically at that point has rounded off more or less most of the things that I watched this season, I think. Oh, the one about the mysterious disease doctor, that one also ended in a pretty blah way. It was just unremarkable. It wasn't bad. It was just unremarkable. And that pretty much describes a lot of the stuff that I watched this season past. It wasn't bad, it was just not.
It was just not kind of remarkable. There for a lot of it.
I won't I won't even remember that I watched it by the end of the next season.
Mm-hmm.
That type of thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was pretty much the like if there was another season of each of them, like I might watch it, but they would mostly be quite low on the list of things to watch.
Yeah.
They would not be priorities. Like, I definitely wouldn't waste my time watching another season of LBX Girls. I might casually watch more of the Boonies one. I would probably watch more of Jujutsu Kaisen simply because I like shonen and they were really starting to find their groove toward the end there, but then it ended, so I might watch more of the Spider one simply because nothing has happened yet and I want to find out what's going to happen.
See what is actually going to happen. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just not great. I don't think I'd watch another one of the Horse Girl one because, like I said
No.
last week, they only have like two kinds of drama, which is injury and rivalry. So yeah, there's just it was a very blah season. I must have missed all the good shows, or maybe there weren't any. I've only got so much time, but
Like you had Cells at Work, which ended up being good.
yeah, it was good, but it was also short.
It was
And
short.
I'm not sure that it actually does. I'm not sure that it would actually deserve watching another season because, like, where do you go from there?
Yeah.
How do you escalate? Especially from Black, where they hit some pretty sort of high notes of drama, and they kind of stretched the conceit as far as it will go.
Yeah.
Like,
The only way
it's
I
a bit-
think they can actually go is it's the same deal, but this is what a female deals with in terms of horrible, crippling diseases.
Yeah, like I don't think that there's much else that they can really do there. I
Yeah.
think that's more or less run its course.
I'm not sure why they left the sequel hook on there, but yeah.
To my mild surprise, I feel like people stopped talking about Attack on Titan. I expected more burbling about it, and I didn't really see it.
Yeah.
This season is really, really weird, and I don't think people know quite how to parse it yet.
It's supposed to be the finale season too, isn't it?
Yeah, but
So it's going to be like the finale to so many long runners and just be incomprehensible and disappointing.
I get the feeling we might move in that direction just because I don't know if anybody can. It's hard to follow with what's going on because they're totally making this a. Should I spoil what happens at the end of season 3? Probably. It's ancient by now.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll ever get around to watching anyway because I was so put off by it initially.
So at the end of season 3, they realize they are not the only humans on Earth, and that was a total lie. In fact, there is a entire continent, and they are just on a tiny island. And on that continent, they have progressed all the way up to the 1940s, 1960s-ish.
Right.
And these people were stuck on the island specifically because they turn into big scary monsters and eat people if the right conditions are met. So they've been stuck there because the rest of the world hates them.
Because they have to turn into the thing that kills everyone.
Yeah, so they've been
blah
blah blah mistreated, analogs to Dajus and the country that they are going to war against to earn their place back on the mainland and society is basically Nazi Germany.
Because of course it is.
Yeah, and I mean they're stuck in areas that are designated for, they call them the Eldians, the people on the island, and they when they are on the mainland, if they're not shipped off to the island itself, and they have to wear their in-universe Star of David equivalent as an armband with a certain color and insignia on it.
Oh, what?
Yeah, so it's so this is Eren going to war with the literal Nazi parallel as one of the Jews.
I see.
That's why nobody can parse what the heck is going on.
Because they're afraid of what other people will say if they try.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably a good part of it, yeah.
I'm not in the particular class of people. It basically means that I'll get accused of being a Nazi and a white supremacist, but I'm not
They'll
really
do that anyway.
in the class of people who think that part of history is sacred. Like, I think that it should be investigated and studied the same way as any other part of history, not held to be special. For instance, I'm going to dig us in a real deep freaking hole right now.
Oh,
For instance, the 6 million Jews that got killed, right? You're not actually allowed to question the counting. Like, if you think it was 5.5 million or 6.5 million, you aren't even allowed to ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not allowed. In any other arena of inquiry, you would be allowed to do an investigation and present a paper.
yes.
But not this one. Not this one. Your career will be over if you try. And it's just because this society seems to carve out certain sacred cows that they are willing to protect at the cost of their own integrity. And this part of history is one of them. No matter that nobody likes Nazis, only a handful of crazy people, of which there are literally only a handful the world over, actually think that they were cool guys. But even for the rest of us, we can't talk too much about that stuff because we might say something verboten. And I sort of appreciate to a certain extent when a piece of media will get edgy with it, simply because I don't think that it is bad in the way other people think it is bad to be desensitized to the idea of Nazis. I think that desensitization to the idea of Nazis is better because it means that you stop seeing them as fantastical boogeymen and start seeing them as evils of humanity. Because that type of thing can and will arise again under certain circumstances, depending on what those circumstances are and how and where they might arise. Like, that's actually something that could theoretically happen. It doesn't happen by accusing people of it as though they are boogeymen. It happens usually because of cultural and economic circumstances. But you can't recognize it if you can't study it.
Yeah.
You simply won't be able to see it. That's why we're in this culture where everybody says, "Oh, well, this is just like the Nazis," over every little thing, because nobody knows a damn thing about the Nazis, because you're not allowed to know anything about the Nazis.
Yeah, if you don't parrot only the mainstream broad strokes Nazis bad from that you learn in world history or whatever.
Yeah, and it's not about, in reality, it's not about whether Nazis are bad or not. It's about why and how they got there.
The why is important.
Because if you treat them as aliens, then you're not, like, they're space invaders with an irrational logic that can never arise in humanity, then you're never ever going to be able to understand it, and you will just apply that label incorrectly anytime you attempt to apply it, which is what happens now. And none of the people who are being accused of being Nazis are even socialists, which is sort of an obligatory part of being a member of the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Like, this is a particular ideology driven by particular animuses in a particular culture with a particular history in a particular circumstance in the world, which is the disintegration of the kingdoms of Europe and the fallout after the First World War. Like, that very, very dark part of human history. Like, these things are historical circumstances that, number one, are under investigated because people aren't allowed to talk about it anymore. Once upon a time they were investigated, and now you're not allowed to because you'll get accused of being a Nazi. And number two, a rich seam of drama to pull dramatic writing from for the purposes of entertainment, because they're things that actually happen.
Yeah, I think
they involve human stories about humans.
Even if we weren't in the current political climate, it's just at that right point in history where it's just far enough away that nobody was alive, but it's also the last major global conflict that's stuck in everybody's brain, even more so than like Vietnam and stuff. So it gets that treatment a lot, I think, until we have another war of equal and biggerness.
Well, I mean, the theory is that after that point, when atomic and later nuclear weapons entered the scene, the prospect of world war suddenly became too horrifying to contemplate.
Yeah.
And so we ended up in this sort of awkward deadlock where everybody is maintaining a nuclear arsenal in order to be a prohibition against war via mutually assured destruction. But the entire ethics of that are very, very difficult to justify, except that nobody feels like they've got a choice. So everybody is now in an unethical position where they are willing to use a deeply, deeply horrifying weapon that is ethically unjustifiable, and the only reason they're willing to use it is because they're afraid everybody else is, and that applies to everybody. And so the world is now stuck in this sort of permanent deadlock of very, very difficult to justify, so grey it's basically black morality.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to prevent that from getting any worse, people simply refusing to talk about it and bottling everything up instead. Because of course the best way to deal with any given problem is to bottle it up and make everybody as ignorant of it as possible. But at any rate, the upshot of all this is that I don't really object to the use of any of that stuff as dramatic material, as a resource to draw on, but I do dislike it being treated as some sort of special thing which needs parables told about it every 5 minutes.
Yeah, but given how forbidden the topic has been lately, I don't get that feeling from it. I get the feel. I'm not even sure what feeling I get from the way it's presented in Attack on Titan. It's just handled very abruptly, so it's hard to process what's going on, because we went from Last of Humanity surviving in the walls to humanity surviving in the walls is the Jews, and now they got to fight back against Hitler.
This sounds very much like a jump the shark moment.
It does, doesn't it?
It depends on how they handle the ending, because they still got a story going on here that's a natural progression.
Because it just sounds like a little bit of an artificial what a twist.
Yeah.
I mean, they did lay the foreshadowing that there were people across the sea, and that they weren't the last of humanity, and had it all but confirmed for several seasons with the appearance of other people who knew stuff that nobody on the island knew. But they did not foreshadow the Nazis and Jews parallel thing.
Yeah, that seems to have just come out of completely nowhere.
Yeah, that totally did not make any foreshadowing.
Yeah, I think that it sticks out more because it was probably this is something that I feel is taking place, is that there's a bleed over of the Western sensibilities regarding Nazi Germany into Japan, where Nazi Germany were just, oh well, they were an ally in this war that we lost, so I guess they're bad people because they weren't able to make us win. Their attitude towards Nazism is very, very different because they were on the same side.
Yeah, it's a legitimate part of their history as one of their allies, and it doesn't. How do I put it? You have to kind of just watch it to see how they're doing it, because they don't treat it like Westerners do.
Yeah, well, that's because they don't have the same sort of sacred sensibility about it, but they also do know that it is regarded as shocking and therefore will enable them to draw an audience. So when they use it as a device, it's often a bit... It varies usually between cringy and incomprehensible a lot of the time. Like, there was that's that really popular battle opera VN that got an anime probably a few years ago now.
Oh,
Dies Irae.
Yeah.
And that's just like it's riddled with Nazi imagery from top to bottom. It's just drenched in it. But the whole reason that they've done it is, you can tell, is just because they thought it was cool and edgy. Because that's the level at which the Nazis exist in the Japanese consciousness for the most part, is that they're sort of like the dark, they've become sort of the dark and edgy chunibyos of history. Because I mean, in a lot of ways, the Nazis were. I mean, they at their worst, they were ruthless butchers. But most of the time, they just had really derpy ideas about reality.
They did investigate black magic.
They came to murderous conclusions, but most of the things that they believed were rather silly.
Yeah,
and they were silly in the way that you would try and snort and suppress your laughter if one of them was telling you about it. Like they were sort of like Q-tards, basically. You know, the really wacky ones.
Oh yeah,
Right.
the trust the plan ones.
Yeah, they've got this sort of very very crazy and appeal to a lot of very vague, abstract supernaturalism in order to justify various things.
Oh,
Because
Yeah.
it's all
stupid
depending.
things.
It's all depending on this sort of armature of mythos that is only understandable by them. Like a lot of Nazism was like that, and you can see that even in amongst more modern philosophers who have their roots in some of the ideology that informed the Nazis, like particularly people who advocate fascism in the modern day. And there's also the added perception that advocating fascism in the modern day is exactly the same thing as advocating socialism or communism. It's just a political ideology. It doesn't involve Jews in any way.
Mm-hmm.
But the people who advocate for it as a governmental system, a lot of them still have the trappings of that really wacky metaphysics of these particular societies are superior to others, structured in this way, and there's magic dirt and all this other this weird stuff that basically makes them come off like larpers. I mean, they consider them.
A good chunk of that.
Pardon?
I had forgotten about a good chunk of that, but I do remember reading a lot of stuff about it.
Yeah, like a lot of that stuff, it still exists. And I mean, it's only due to exposure that we think that that's special or different, because anybody who believes in Marxism believes in the same type of stuff. If you look at the way Marx constructed his theories, the way he operates in terms of false consciousness and the labor theory of value and that sort of thing, it's all the same sort of really wacky fantasy world thinking. It's just that people accept it because those people work in the universities. So an almost identical class of idea is treated as acceptable to examine, while another one is unacceptable to examine, simply because of cultural history. And so you can see this playing out in anime, where it's treated as something entirely different. So the Nazis are treated as toonies in Eastern pop media, whereas in the West they are treated as demons from hell. So,
But yeah,
digression over.
tangent. We got on a tangent about the Nazis.
That happened, yeah.
Digression over. I'll leave, since I decided to occupy the latter end of my week with that little discussion. I will leave it there.
All right.
I've got to dig us into an ever deeper hole.
You do. You really do.
When YouTube finally comes for us, I want them to be so shocked that they can't even bring themselves to press the ban button.
You're just waiting, hoping that whoever investigates this is going to stroke out.
And it will be worth it.
I mean, I'll take that.
Couldn't happen to a nice bunch of lunatics.
I would consider that a win.
Yeah, if we're going to go down, we're going to take them with us.
Oh, no.
If we can burn the YouTube censors, I will happily call that a win for the show. The show did its job if we end YouTube censorship because the whole team strokes out trying to ban us.
We reached a level of never seen before triggering. And we didn't even say anything morally objectionable to get there.
That's arguable. Depends on whose morals you're talking about.
Well, they don't have morals. They don't believe in morals. It's part of their philosophy.
Yeah, true.
You can't be a relativist and believe in morals.
But they will try to tell you that they have what's morally best. Anyway, before we get on another tangent. I did not do a whole lot this week at all.
You disappeared into a hole is what you did.
It's been 2.5 weeks now. I've just been so busy that I cannot, for the life of me, get any free time to sit down and do anything I really want to. It's been go to work at 7 o'clock, work till 7 o'clock, get home, sit down for a couple hours, go write day after day after day after day. And that's still not enough to get all the work done.
Welcome to adulthood.
It turns out that when you're left alone in the family business to take care of literally everything, the occasional work that the people who didn't do their job did added up after a while. And if you are responsible for all of it, well, if you could do it in some kind of systematic fashion that made sense, maybe it would work okay. You ain't gonna have that much luck though when you have to just kind of keep jumping and going and juggling 50 things in your brain because you're going to forget about something and have to scramble to go get whatever you forgot. And then you're going to forget about that, about what you were doing before, and have to scramble to get that done again. And then you've forgotten about 3 other things that were already on the to-do list that you just didn't make a note about.
Yeah.
And so you start running out of time. So it's just been a colossal mess at work. I cannot wait to get out of this hole. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get us out of it. I really want to, but I just don't know if I'll be able to because it's just a lot of work on me doing it. Especially with right now when the U.S. government and tax season's involved in CPA shenanigans, that it just never ends. It just keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the government. I hate the government so much.
Yeah, and that's another tick on the list.
So yeah, what did I do this week? I watched one anime movie that I'd been waiting on to come out. So I went to Honest Bob's, and Honest Bob's #1, their first store, has had a very low quality recording from somebody sitting in a chair and filming the theater for a while.
MRIP.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid saying that word because I'm pretty sure it's flagged.
Yeah, it probably is.
That seems like a really strange thing to flag. People talking about cam rips.
Oh, a lot of things are very strange things to flag.
Well, considering how many times we said the word Nazi on this show, you're worried about the word cam rip. There's something wrong with you.
The word cam rip immediately loses them money, or it makes their advertisers mad. So, what else? So Honest Bob's #2, however, got up a proper Blu-ray recording because the movie came out this week. And that was the third Heaven's Feel movie. So I finally got to watch it. When did you go see this in theaters? It was before the Coof.
Yeah, it was. It was before the Coof. I don't remember exactly when though. I'd have to look for the ticket stub in my email.
So yeah, that seems to have screwed with its release date quite a bit. It was supposed to come out way earlier, I think, on Blu-ray, like sometime in August last year. But because of the Coof, they got stuck with theater screenings, and they had to meet a certain contractual number of theater screenings. So we just didn't get it until like right now, which is March of 2021, and you watched it before February of 2020. Or now it's April of 2021, but I watched it on the 31st. That's when it came out. So yeah, what did I think about it? It's hard. I knew it would be hard to adapt Heaven's Feel. It's not a easy to adapt story because of the nature of the way it's told. Part of it is needing to sit there and spend a lot of time in Shiro's head while he goes over why he's doing what he's doing, and you just don't got that kind of time in 3 two-ish hour movies. So you need to find a way to convey as much of that as you can. And while I don't think they succeeded in that, I think they did the best they could.
Yeah, it's a very, very text-heavy story, even for a visual novel format.
Yeah, it's very wordy. It's a lot of Shiro going over why does he believe what he believes? Is he willing to give up certain beliefs for other things he's realized he wants more? Or are his intrinsic values just too worth it and he can't think of a reason to ever get rid of them? You don't get any of that in a visual medium where you got an episode timer or a movie timer. You got to just show the boom, 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 this happened. And the story, Heaven's Feel movies assume you understand and have, at the very least, watched Unlimited Blade Works, their version. And they probably would prefer you watch Fate Zero as well and have a decent grasp on how the universe works. Because it doesn't go into very much detail. There's an aside with Ilya at one point on top of a bridge explaining why Angermanu is important. But if you're a new Fate fan, if you don't have a clue why the Grail's corrupted, you're going to be totally lost.
He's the crappiest servant in the gacha.
That's his true crime.
That's his true crime. Yeah.
So yeah. The fight between Shiro and Kyrie is a scene that I would have loved that would be fun to watch if you watch it while you're reading it at the same time.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. Like it would work so well if there was some way of compressing all of that material and then watching it at the same time. But there's no conceivable way to do it.
No. I mean, maybe you could overlay the text of the VN over the movie and have it play out in scroll time with the sequence.
But there's like nobody can read that fast.
Yeah, it's
because there's a huge amount of text.
Yeah, it's all about how Shiro's brain is destroying itself. He's dying. His brain is disintegrating while he's fighting him.
Yeah, the thing about somebody having a stroke while they do something is that you can't really tell the specifics of what's going on.
And it doesn't, because it follows the true end, and we don't get to sit with Shiro. I think they undersold the severity of just how bad using Archer's arm is screwing with his head. You can see eventually swords start, skewering him pretty right after the fight Ryder has with Saber Alter, which looks really cool, by the way. That's probably the best fight in the series.
No, I think that the fight between Berserker and Saber Alter was the best.
I really liked a lot of the ways they handled the aerial movement with Berserker in that fight, but I think particularly the part where they're falling down the hole with Ryder looks really, really cool.
I think there's so many incredible fights in that series that you're liable, most likely, to just like best the one that you remember the most. Like, because even the very, very, very early fight with Lancer is also incredible. The one in the traffic.
Oh, yeah, the traffic highway fight with what's his nuts, Hassan.
Yeah, I never even imagined that you could render that scene like that, and it was just incredible.
Yeah, because they actually expanded quite a bit from the VN with what I remember, although my memory of the VN is not great. It's been a while.
Yeah, I could tell by the question that you asked me.
So they're early on in the movie. They have a really cute dynamic with Shiro and Kyrie going together to investigate the Ainsburn Castle to rescue Ilya. And I remembered the scene happening, but I did not remember any of the specifics of it. And so
it's like the worst buddy cop movie ever. Or the best, depending on your point of view.
I don't know. Shiro's sitting there trying to go over the whole house, and Kyrie going, "She's up there, right?" Yeah, and just grabs him by the back of his shirt and chucks him through the window. Several stories up. Go get her. And then he climbs up the normal way, and he's like, "You still ain't got her yet? You're still talking to her? What's wrong with you?"
I mean, he's a complete irredeemable asshole, but you have to admit, Kirei does have a bit of style.
Oh yeah, he's cool. That's why he's a lot of people's favorite character. And for the people who he's not their favorite character, he's someone they love to hate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh my goodness, I do like Kyrie a lot, even though he's fun to hate. That's specifically why I like him. He's not my favorite character in the series, but he's fun to be around and see scenes from. And then you have the one thing I think the movie did, probably, it might not be true if I reread the VN, but it did a lot at the climax of Sakura and Rin's last fight they have, to sell that Rin does care, actually.
Yeah. I would say that it's more that she hid it better throughout the VN. Like, when it comes to the end and then she fails to kill Sakura, it's very much, it's almost difficult to credit that her reasoning is what she says it is, because of how you can, in retrospect, you can see that she is more or less trying to convince herself of the right course of action as much as anything else. But until you get to that end point, it always seems like at first blush, it seems like, oh well, she just got cold feet and didn't have the balls to go through with it in the end. But the added sort of expression that you get from the movie makes it a much more credible decision on her part, that she never really could do it, and she knew in her heart of hearts that she loved her sister too much to kill her, and that after all the stuff that she said to Shiro, she knew she was just a hypocrite. But this is one of the things where the medium helps a lot, because you get to see their body language and facial expressions instead of just pre-canned sprites. So you can tell a bit more about what she's thinking in that way, since she's not the POV character.
With Shiro, you obviously lose it because we literally get to read every little thought he has at any given point in the VN.
I thought that would just be elevator music for the most part.
No, he gets stuck in mental loops a lot. Is the best way to put it, where he keeps redefining the exact same thing to himself with the exact same definition and just reiterating this is what he believes and this is why he believes it.
People die when they are killed.
Well, I mean, but that's also his pathos, really, because he obtained his beliefs not through induction or deduction, but by rote.
Mm-hmm.
So it sort of makes sense for him to be that way.
Yeah. So it's a good movie for the action scenes alone. But you're not going to understand it unless you have a grasp of what has already happened in the other Roots of Fate Stay Night. You don't need the Fate route so much for Heaven's Feel in this movie, other than understanding why he's upset that he lost Saber and what his attachment to her really was. So, but if you just watch Unlimited Blade Works, I think you'll be fine to watch these movies. And Heaven's Feel is a more brain active story than Unlimited Blade Works is, especially when we're talking about the animated versions, because you have to recall things with the animated version of Heaven's Feel. And so I wouldn't say it's a chore, and I'm not quite sure how to describe it, because it's something for fans of the franchise that have just wanted a Heaven's Feel adaptation forever to see the really cool fight scenes, which we got. So I guess it was successful, and that everything it presented was about as best as we could have hoped for. Of course, that's saying something with Ufotable, who at this point have such high expectations with every single product they put out, that if they don't meet them, it's a surprise.
Yeah.
Them boys know how to animate good with computer modeling.
They can make anything look good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the converse is true in that they make other things look bad.
This is true.
Yeah.
Yes.
They do.
Like, I mean, if you compare, say, Demon Slayer with Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer looks better, and it's very easy to classify it as a different type of thing, but it's not. It's the same type of thing, but it's just dressed up in such a fabulous way that you can barely tell.
It is extremely pretty shonen.
And things like, while there are some major writing issues with the Camelot, FGO Camelot movie, the thing that held it back the most, in most people's opinion, was that it doesn't look like Ufotable, because it wasn't Ufotable.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's...
Yeah, them boys just, they got the touch over there.
Yeah, on one hand you've got Unlimited Blade Works, the series, and on the other hand, the first Unlimited Blade Works movie.
And while they have made quite a bit of money-os to throw at projects, from what I understand, it's mostly just talent and experience doing it, rather than money. They don't spend that much more than everybody else.
They're still Unlimited Budget Works for a reason, but it's their previous success is what has allowed them to be those people who get this much invested in them, that they can do these incredibly lavish animated sequences. Mm-hmm. It's because people trust them to do a good job already.
Yeah. So, like, even before they were really big, the Kara no Kyokai movies looked absolutely amazing. I think that was their first big project they did. I might be wrong on that. I have to think about it. But but yeah, it was an interesting watch. I'm glad I watched it. I also played through the FGO Tokugawa event, and the only commentary I had for anything that Vol doesn't do is apparently Matahari is so good at her job, she can get you drunk on her breasts just by looking at them.
I'm sorry, what now?
Yeah, the scene where they go, okay, I'll use my noble phantasm to induce intoxication in you, master, so we can get through the puzzle of this floor. And it's just a big ol' heart that comes right out of her chest.
Limitations of the format are still.
So as far as I'm concerned, the protagonist was just sitting there staring at Matahari the whole time, and that's why he kept tripping and falling, or she did in my case.
I see?
Do you though?
No, not really. No.
So yeah, that's a thing. But yeah, I actually did not think very much, either good or bad, of this event's story. It was just a story that happened. And while it had an evil of humanity in it, and it's got a beast as the big bad and all that, I just did not feel particularly attached to any part of it. So it's weird. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't find anything particularly noteworthy about it in the way it was presented. It just it didn't stick with me for some reason. I imagine I'll forget it pretty quick.
I
Lovely.
thought it was interesting in a sort of an experimental type of way compared to the way they've structured events in the past. Although I could live without some of those load screens.
Yeah, if we could find a way to do that without having to load every time a new node opens, that'd be great.
There's that many load screens?
Yeah, there's like at least 50 per floor, if you're lucky.
Oh my.
But it's also like it's obviously a product of Spaghetti Code.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was somebody had a great idea on the dev team. That is the reason things are like this.
So business as usual, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, it was okay. Did I do anything else at all? Any video games? No. Any other anime or something that I watched? No. I just worked and found more work to do when I finally thought I was done. And then I did some more work and then fought with the tax man and then went back to work.
Yeah.
You fought with the tax man.
Well,
Did you have
the US.
Did you have a dramatic duel like Shiro and Kirei?
I wish if you could personify the US government and you said you'll get to punch him in the face, but swords will skewer your brain until you literally can't think anymore, I'm signing up for that in a heartbeat. Done. Signed. That is A-okay with me.
Okay then. In that
I don't
case,
like the government.
Should we do a bit of news?
We can
Sure.
do some news.
Actually, before we do that, we should do an email.
Should do.
Email.
Email.
I don't have it handy today.
I does.
Can you read though? That's the question.
Maybe. Let's see how cross-eyed I am today. Hang on. Let me actually not multitask while I'm doing it. That's probably the biggest thing. All right. Comes from Serathus, and he says, "Dear No Excuses. Virgo's jihad has come to an end. I got the bad ending. Everything went horribly off the tracks with nearly everyone dying. That's what you get for accidentally killing the girlfriend of the resident yandere. Yeah, don't do that. Come to think of it, the first enemy you kill in the game is an activist for the Workers' Manifesto. The anarchist sponsored by Aquarius, who is a space pirate because reasons. Yes, you start the game with helicoptering commies who stop you because technically you are royalty, being a Zodiac. Then you helicopter Capricornalists? Anyway, that's not a word. Anyway, it's Capricorn's goons, I guess. Who try to stop you getting a promotion. Meanwhile, Capricorn is more upset at the potential profit loss than the death of her daughter. But enough about social commentary. Instead, Outriders, with some social commentary. Because of course. Avoid Outriders is the definition of mediocrity. One unit third-person cover-based shooter-looter with special powers. Rectangular arenas where enemies pour into from one-way doors. Yeah, weird sentence. Your weapons are SMG, LMG, assault rifle, shotgun, and sniper rifle. Bingo, I guess. You have abilities on a cooldown. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have reached peak unoriginality with this game. Seriously, I cannot fathom how people can make such a game after Painkiller and Bulletstorm. And that's from Celatus.
I still haven't played Bulletstorm.
I played a bit of it, and
Do I own it on PSN?
probably. Everyone else seems to. They gave it away like candy a few years back. I tried Bulletstorm the first time it released, and before it disappeared and then reappeared at full price again because reasons. And I found the whole experience utterly juvenile at that point. Fun, but juvenile.
I don't really understand exactly what you mean because I don't have the background.
It seems to think that dropping an F-bomb is the highest form of humor.
Oh, okay. Because I really liked Painkiller.
Painkiller is fantastic. The first one, not Painkiller Black. Do not play Painkiller Black.
What's the difference?
Different studio.
So they're different games, is what you're saying.
Basically, yeah.
Right, I don't know which one I've got.
Yeah. It's like
I've
they
got-
took Painkiller.
There are four. There are four on my Steam list called Painkiller. There's Painkiller Black, Painkiller Overdose, Painkiller Resurrection, and Painkiller Redemption.
Was it Black or was it over? No. Yeah, pretty sure it was Black, but it was the bad one. It's like they took everything that was Painkiller and then just made it worse, and then strapped this awful story about half angel, half demon, half Sasquatch, or whatever the hell he was.
Sounds like fan fiction.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But I took a look at the Steam page for Outriders, and yeah, even the Storm page looks generic as all
No,
get out.
Painkiller Black is just the special edition of the original.
Okay, it must have been. Yeah. Anyway, so
There's
will
like
probably point out what I know.
There's like a million others as well.
Yeah. Ceresis will point it out probably next week because I'm having a brain fart. I know I played it, and it was awful.
But that stake gun is unbelievably satisfying.
Yeah. But yeah, Outriders, like the first impression I got is like here is this action chick and she has glowy eyes and she's throwing lightning around for no reason. And look, here is a car that is covered in skulls. It's just Come to think of it, was there really any marketing for this game? Because I don't recall actually seeing it anywhere until I looked it up.
I can't think of any. I'll have a look at the. Holy cow! $100.
There is also that. They are asking top dollar for it.
I think I remember seeing like an. I think I remember seeing like an E3 trailer or something.
In that case, that's no wonder I don't remember it.
Yeah, that's all I remember. Is I think that there was like an E3 trailer, but I mean, that's all. And I might be wrong about that too, but I don't remember them doing any really strong marketing push or anything. It's got a demo.
Yeah, I'm glad that Steam's actually starting to do demos again. Then you can play it a little bit and realize just how boring and generic it is.
It looks boring and generic.
It looks very boring and generic. So yes, thank you very much for your email, Ceratus. I have no idea where Virgo's game actually went after that description.
I guess I don't know much about it either.
Yeah.
Like, what even type of game is it? Turn-based RPG.
Mm-hmm. It seems to have just gone for the most mad outcome possible by looking.
Honestly, I don't really like the graphical style very much.
Mm.
The sort of flat pastel-colored pixel art. I don't think that I would.
Yeah.
I don't think that I would invest in it. It doesn't really look that interesting to me.
I'll give it a miss. I think yes. Like, it sounds like it's a weird story, but yeah.
The GIF at the bottom of the store page is deeply disturbing.
Do I dare?
Yeah, it got recommended to me, I think, by Steam, and I saw it, and I'm not sure why, but it triggered some warning lights.
Oh.
It just a generic feeling of this ain't gonna work. This is gonna be bad. Something here is off.
Oh no. Is it the fact that when you're scrolling down, they got the reviews and the Steam Awards at the top of the page?
No,
Because that's always a warning sign.
it's just an icky feeling.
It has a demo.
What the hell is that?
Yeah. It's kind of off-putting, isn't it?
I do not understand or comprehend what I am seeing.
I don't want to. I just want to forget.
Let's just forget that entirely. So yeah, thank you very much for your email, Serathus. Right. Let us pick a news, shall we? Vol, you picked most of the news this week.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What were
I
you
didn't
people
pick up
doing?
anything. I was dying.
You were having fun with the text, man.
Yes.
Fun is not the word I would use.
Okay, so the biggest news over the past week was the official confirmation, that the PS3 and PSP PlayStation stores are shutting down on July the 2nd.
Yeah, that was going to happen sooner or later.
And PS Vita in August. Now, the problem with this, there are actually lots of problems with this, and a lot of people didn't believe that this was happening until the official confirmation came out, because the rumor came out well in advance.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that nobody believed it, and the reason nobody believed it is that Sony didn't inform the developers who were developing games for the Vita.
Oh no.
And they didn't, right up until the last minute.
Oh,
So a lot of
no.
people were like in the midst of their development cycle, and then suddenly realized that they wouldn't be able to release their game.
Yeah, you kind of need the store to release on the Vita.
I mean, I guess they could go physical copy only and sell on Amazon.
I guess.
But if they're closing down those stores, it's going to be real hard to upload patches if nobody's maintaining those stores.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so basically, this has condemned those consoles to history now.
Yep.
And this has awoken a lot of bad sentiment towards Sony, not just for the clownish way in which they actually organized this, or the abruptness or anything like that, but there's so much content that people can't get anymore. All PS3, PSP, PS Vita games on like eBay are at an absolute massive premium right now,
I bet.
because you just won't be able to get them anymore. You need to have the tangible media. You need to have the optical media to play any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So this has caused a huge amount of problems. A lot of people are like, oh well, how are we going to preserve all of this content? There's lots of stuff we won't be able to play anymore. This stuff's all going to disappear. And this is the main reason this has attracted bad press, is because this stands in such sharp contradistinction from Microsoft's attitude, because Sony by doing this have formally adopted the attitude that they do not care about their historical content whatsoever. They have no intention of supporting it, and they have no intention of providing backwards compatibility except at their leisure when they want to re-release and make you buy something again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is basically stands against Microsoft, where you can get whatever you want provided you're willing to pay their sub
Yes.
on as many platforms as you want, however you want, whenever you want. You can just get them.
It's
And
just
so
waiting for you to buy it.
And so this basically is playing into the great tradition of the way Sony does things, which is to have one really runaway success generation, followed by a absolutely abysmal, catastrophic generation, where
And
they
it's
got
all their own fault too.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
yeah.
get, it's always the same reasons. They get their head gets so fat over their previous success, they think they can do anything that they want. They can treat their customers like dirt, and then they do so, and suddenly they don't have customers anymore, and they don't understand why, and then they have to fire their person in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's going to happen here, because from what it sounds like, either their guy in charge is either a mouthpiece for a broader policy, or alternatively, he's the one driving this, and he's notorious for this attitude of, oh, we believe in generations. When a new generation comes out, the old generation should be phased out. Period.
Yeah, except gamers don't think that way.
Yeah. No, people want to play the stuff that they own.
Yeah.
And this is going to cost them dearly. I think that this move by itself has created enough sort of bad feeling amongst gamers that they're pretty much guaranteed a loss this generation by doing so, because it stands right alongside Microsoft, who's making all of the opposite moves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they are doing the thing that that was done at the PS4 release with the price.
Mm-hmm.
Where the only thing that Sony needed to do was to not do what Microsoft was doing, and that was enough to win them the generation. The opposite is happening now. Microsoft are doing what Sony is not doing, and they're going to win the generation off the back of that.
Yeah. Like,
It's
for the first time ever, I'm actually more leaning towards buying a Microsoft console. I probably won't because I got a gaming PC.
that's the thing about Microsoft products, right? You don't need a Microsoft console.
No.
Eventually, it will come out on PC now that their Golden Goose Halo has made it to the PC.
Yeah,
It's
like
not
the
so
only
much-
reason
It's more
that I
than
ever
that.
buy.
They're actively pushing for dual release now.
Oh yeah, that's their. They don't. I think that they want to phase the console market out entirely, and that their next generation, this generation and next generation, are probably just going to be an intermediary step to
Mhm.
killing the console market, and then they will gradually move towards a explicit console style PC generation. They're just going to do it by degrees instead of forcing the issue the way Steam tried to with
Yeah.
those Steam boxes or whatever. I think that basically, rather than trying to force the issue, Microsoft is going to ease people into it by having a few successive generations of almost PC consoles, and eventually it will be a console that can also do PC things, and then
Right.
it will be a PC.
The Series X as it is like, it's a PC, but it's really simplified.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of Microsoft consoles have been like that,
Yeah.
and I think that at some point that the Xbox was like that,
The Xbox was like that.
and the 360, and so on and so forth. Their consoles have always been like that. They've never had the sort of unique architecture that historically consoles opted for. And I think that at some point they just realised that actually we're playing somebody else's game, and we're going to have the most success if we make it our game that everybody else has to play. So let's do that. And I think that they are going to phase consoles out. In the end, that's where we'll end up going. And Sony is the only meaningful opposition to this because, you know, Nintendo has moved sideways into a totally different market.
I think you'll find probably even the next generation, especially if Sony self-destructs like they seem intent on doing, is the next Xbox will be not marked as a game console, but as a... there's probably not a term for it yet, but as a micro PC.
They'll probably come up with something. I think that they will try and stay away from the PC name for a lot longer though, because it's that the idea that it's a PC will scare away part of their customer base.
It will.
It'll scare away all the normies, and Xbox relies on the normies as their lifeblood right now.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if they will ever come around to calling it a PC. I think that they will retain the image of a console, but they will give it more of PC's abilities over the course of time.
They'll probably call it a life system or something. I don't know.
I don't know whether or not they even need to change the nomenclature. Why bother?
Yeah.
Console has gaming connotations, but it need not.
Yeah, it doesn't need to.
It's a very generic word. Ultimately, I think that what they are engaged in right now is changing what console means. And they're going to stay away from stuff like Entertainment Center and that because,
That's got different connotations again.
It's got the connotations of TV spirits, among other things.
TV Spirits did not go over well.
No, that did not work out so well for them in the long run. So, they learned the right lessons from it.
They did.
And that's something that Sony appears to be incapable of doing. If Sony had done a Microsoft instead, and they are limited in their ability to do that because they don't have the sort of PC base, they don't have the software base that Microsoft does. They don't have the default PC market penetration. So the arena in which they operate is much more narrow, but they still had the capacity to go the route of a much more liberal attitude towards their PlayStation Plus sub. They could have put more money into developing PlayStation Now to stop being the obnoxious, virtually unworkable thing that it is for a lot of software.
I forgot
They
that
could have
exists.
they could have gone the route of extensive backwards compatibility. The only reason they didn't was that they're rigidly sticking to an unproven philosophy held internally that the way that they do things must be the best way of doing things, and that's all that there is to it. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If they had gone the way Microsoft did, then they would preserve their niche in the market for an entire another generation. Probably more, we're looking on a decade and a half of time they would have bought themselves to develop their position in the market. But instead, they have forfeited their market dominance over to Microsoft.
Yes.
That's what this looks like.
As much
Because the all of the actions they have been taken can be readily interpreted as disdain for their supporters and their customer base.
Yeah. As much as people gripe on Microsoft, and in a lot of cases rightly so, you can't say that they have not learned each console generation.
Yeah, they're no longer spoken of. And the thing is that the people grouse about Microsoft, but they're not spoken of in the same tones as Facebook and Amazon and Google anymore.
Well, I think
The major competitors are now so much more obviously evil than Microsoft.
On the other hand, though,
And-
you've got Bill Gates running around. Well, he used to be running around anyway. He doesn't so much anymore, but running around curing polio.
Well, there's the problem with that California culture seeping into Sony, and that they moved their HQ over there, and
Yeah,
they
that-
do hate their
That's
customers.
the second part of the news I was going to talk about,
Tangent.
which is that they are basically breaking down their Japanese studio, their in-house Japanese studio. You know, the one responsible for like Dark Souls and that originally.
I honestly, because of when that news article came out, I disbelieved it because April 1st.
Did it come out then?
I believe it did.
But yeah, so
Yeah, it's International
They-
Lies Day, by the way.
they are completely dismantling Sony Japan Studio, which is responsible for a lot of. They harbour a lot of important talent, such as the people involved in Gravity Rush, people involved in Bloodborne, Demon Souls, that sort of thing. The argument. Oh, they're also involved in things like Shadow of the Colossus and much to people's dismay, Patapon.
That game.
The game will never leave you alone.
And now it's stuck in my head again. Thank you very much. I'll get you for this.
But basically, and this is because Sony has abandoned the idea of making games for particular markets. They are not willing to invest money in making any game that is not a global smash hit.
Mm-hmm.
This is not my speculation. This is what they've actually discussed on the matter. That they are basically ending Sony Japan Studio. People are leaving not because they want to go somewhere else, but because they are ending their ending their use of this studio because they feel it doesn't make enough money. It's not profitable enough. It's not that it's not profitable. It's not profitable enough because they're Sony Japan Studio. Their target audience is Japan, and that's not what Sony wants. And so there are two major prongs for this. The first is censorship, and the second is Moneyos. The Moneyos is the easier one to understand. They just want more money, and they are willing to make reckless moves to reorient their deployment of resources such that they are more focused on stuff that has global appeal. You know, they would rather put money into God of War than put money into Bloodborne.
Hmm.
But the other branch of that is that the censorship rules in Japan are totally different, but Sony's position has been to move basically into a Silicon Valley view of content,
Mm-hmm.
which means that they are now obsessed with eradicating any kind of basically they would be happy to see any kind of sexuality gone from video games. But they have zero problem with the most obscene types of gore you can imagine. So yeah, the Sony standards have become increasingly censorious of late, to the point where there are lots of things that are completely disallowed, like the most obvious example in my personal collection of video games I can think of that comes to mind is the jiggle physics in Warriors Orochi have been reduced to the point where they're almost invisible, only on the PlayStation version.
Okay. I mean,
Like when I heard about it, I went to check, and yes, it's true. If you go to a huge amount of effort, you can just detect that the jiggle is still there, but it's been cranked all the way down compared to what it's like on other platforms where it's of the traditional sort.
completely absurd. Yes.
But
Yeah,
basically, they want to conform to those sensibilities, and software developed in Japan for a Japanese market has no interest in that, no interest in doing that, because they know what their market expects.
Yeah. So this puts us in a weird spot where a lot of Japanese developers use Sony as their vector for installing their games in the Japanese market. How are they gonna accommodate that Sony doesn't want to host their games anymore because they're too sexy or whatever?
If Microsoft was smart, they would start a program for porting those games over.
Well, they've been trying to reach out to the Japanese market because somebody at Microsoft recognized the hole in the market that's opening up and is trying to give them a way down.
They don't really trust them. The Japanese don't really trust Microsoft systems, and most of their systems in the past haven't been very successful. But there's no reason for that to remain the case. It has been basically because Nintendo has dramatically liberalized their content policies. That's pretty much removed PlayStation's niche in Japan. Like PlayStation sales, both software and hardware, are tumbling in Japan rapidly because they simply don't serve that audience anymore.
Well, I can't think of a reason to buy a PS5.
No, that's why I haven't, because there's just no reason to. The only reason I buy consoles is for exclusives that I absolutely must play.
Yeah.
If they put a Fate game on a PS5, then I'll buy it if it's on no other platform. But who's going to do that these days? Who's going to put something on one platform?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's no reason.
Really does that is Nintendo, because it's kind of their thing.
Yeah, but that's only for very, very narrow suite of titles. Since they've liberalized their content policy, tons of stuff is getting released on the Switch. Tons of stuff that I never would have expected to see appear on a Nintendo system is appearing on the Switch.
And there's tons of stuff of various different genres and content levels as well.
Yeah, like I'm still a bit blah on the gutless hardware, but I mean, I will go to that console if I have to get something that I want.
Yep.
That's just, and PS5 doesn't offer any of that. They don't offer anything.
They don't
There's
offer
There's nothing on their list of games that even makes me ponder the idea of getting a PS5.
Well, it's even worse with Sony because they've set up their environment now, shuttering the Japanese studios and their in-house dev teams, where it ain't going to be easy for them to sign exclusive contracts anymore. If you don't have an in-house studio,
why would you sign up to them? What are they offering you?
I mean, what are you going to get? Naughty Dog's new game? After what happened with Last of Us 2, you got your one and done with that, and you might have got your money from it, but now that people have felt burned and you're just playing politics, nobody's going to buy the next one.
Yes,
yeah, I think
it's
from what
porn the game.
From what has come out from rumors, I mean, it's hard to trust rumors. You don't want to trust rumors, but sometimes they're all the information you've got. But from what you are hearing coming out of the rumor mill from Sony is that there is a tight knot of people there who have seized cultural control of the gaming department and are basically reshaping it in accordance with their sensibilities, irrespective of the market. And they have just barely enough people and influence to drive this forward as the policy, the broad policy. And this directly coincides with the movement of their power center over to California.
Yeah, and this is unfortunately just going to not work out well for us, the customer, because guess what happens when California gets control of something? You get
Ruin it.
Californian culture and sensibilities injected right into all your product.
Yep.
I-
And that's pretty much the long and short of that, really. I mean,
Everything from the disposable way they treat products to the political agenda pushing to their crazy ideas about how the world works. All of that is summed up as just California, and you get it full force anytime a company roots themselves there.
Yeah, so tied in with that that bit of news, there's another minor bit of news. That's the upper brass of Blizzard Activision has been shifting a little bit. They brought in a few high positions have been replaced. Our boy Bobby's been doing some hiring. One of the people that he hired for a managerial position is a undersecretary of management from the Trump administration.
Okay.
And the people who are working in those California companies, like at Blizzard, are livid.
I bet.
They are absolutely livid. They tried to keep it quiet because this is sort of like the guy they hired. I can't remember the guy's name because I didn't save this news article. I'm trying to do it from memory from when I heard about it earlier in the week. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's like a veteran, and one of the things that they have brought him on board is to manage their sort of their veterans trust, the Blizzard Activision's veterans trust thing. Sort of a charity thing that they do, and also to do some other sort of personnel type management stuff. And from all accounts, the guy is a reasonably solid sort of leader type with managerial chops. Who he worked under. What's his name? Pompeo?
Oh, Mike Pompeo, yeah. One of his boys.
Yeah. So he seems like a reasonable fit for the job. His actual job description, it seems like he's eminently qualified for it. But
he has Trump associated with him.
Yeah, he's associated with Donald Trump, and so the media lost their freaking rag.
Because Orange Man bad.
Yeah, because Orange Man bad. And the people working at companies like Blizzard, who are, left of Stalin, they lost their rag as well. And basically everybody is getting hysterical about this, which I just found generally quite amusing, because it's their sensibilities are not about, oh well, we will hire this person because he's eminently qualified and he'll do a good job. No, they're upset because of who he worked for in the past. The government of the United States.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all hysterical about it. But segueing from there, World of Warcraft has abolished a whole bunch of their pay options. You can no longer buy one-off 30 days or anything like that. The smallest option that you can purchase of game time is a 60-day block now.
Yep.
Basically, the idea, obviously, is to just force people onto subscription. They don't want people to have time expire, because that gives people the opportunity, it draws a date on the calendar. Here is where you reassess whether you want to continue your subscription, because your subscription automatically cuts off under that option. You don't have the opportunity to forget about it and let it roll over to another one and then shrug. So, because that's what they make a lot of money out of, in my opinion, and they're entering into a time of brutal content drought. Basically, Shadowlands got off with a hiss and a roar and is totally nosedived now.
Yeah.
They failed at most of the things that they attempted to accomplish.
Again.
And the next patch is miles away, and there's nothing to do. So basically, this is sort of like a really cheap, knee-jerk attempt to eke out a few extra dollars by forcing people to spend money that they wouldn't spend under normal conditions without giving them any value for it. So this is an unbelievably cynical move.
So here's for those people who are on the those prepaid subscriptions. Here's what you do: you subscribe, and then you immediately cancel.
Yeah, that's what I do.
That's getting harder to do with some companies.
Yeah, actually, they really hide a lot of that stuff.
They do hide a lot of it. They make it hard.
And And more than that, there's some companies, particularly with business software, that will cut your access if you unsubscribe.
Yeah, you've got to maintain that subscription, and I don't know how legal that is, but it's one of those things that's legal until it wins a challenge in court.
Yeah, I think that one needs to be challenged, but until someone does,
Yeah, it's one of those things you're legal until you get caught type
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
because as it is, it should be if you've subscribed to someone, you've paid for 30 days, you get access for 30 days. That's how it should be. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but that's
In
not
the
how
meantime,
they're
though,
not how they're operating. But yeah, so yeah, more anti-consumer behavior from Blizzard. Big surprise.
in other news, the sky is blue.
Yes. Flipping over to
Oh.
another location, a bit of a slightly more of a white pill. Capcom seem to still be doing gangbusters. They've sold 4 million copies of Monster Hunter Rise globally.
Mm.
4 million.
Well-
4 million in 3 days.
World brought in so many people to Monster
Yeah.
Hunter.
I mean, the only reason I haven't bought Monster Hunter Rise is because I don't have a Switch, so I'm just waiting for a PC version. I presume they'll come out with one.
I'm still
Because-
waiting for my copy, Amazon.
Because World did gangbusters
Well,
on
did
PC.
absolute gangbusters, yeah.
So there's no reason for them not to port it, especially considering the massive, massive gap in PC capability compared to the Switch.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did confirm that there will be a PC port.
Yeah,
coming
but
down
it's
the
not,
pipeline.
it's not till next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I might pick it up then, unless a Fate game comes out on the Switch, forcing me to buy one.
I mean,
Um,
it's not impossible.
because the whatchamacallit, today's menu for the EMEA family games coming to Switch.
Oh, there you go. That's
So
a
if
good game.
they localize it, then I'll be forced to buy one. I find that this policy, while it sounds absurd to most people, it actually serves me pretty well because it puts sort of a solid handle on what is a sufficient thing to get me to purchase a system, and I simply won't purchase one outside of that. Like, they've got to offer that justification, and for me, Type Moon is the justification. So it's
Method
actually,
that works.
yeah, it's been a really handy metric. I mean, like, it's kept me away from doing things like buying a PS5 for no reason, because there's always a certain amount of buzz when a console comes out, right?
Mhm.
But it's just a case of, oh well, there's no Nasiverse game on that system. I don't need it.
Yeah.
Or in the case of Extella, when that came out, I wasn't really in the market for a console, even though it was going to come out. I was like, oh, but I could just buy it on the PC. I've already got that. I don't need to buy a console for it. Eventually, I got PS4 anyway, but it was about the Nasiverse game. It was the defining thing in that case. But yeah, so I'm not going to get Monster Hunter Rise because it's not an Nasiverse game, therefore won't sell the console to me. However, I will get it on Switch if I get a Switch before it comes out on PC. But if it comes out on PC, I'll get it then.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure I'll be able to find somebody who wants to play it on PC. But
I mean,
yeah,
I bought World twice because there's people on PC who wanted to play it with me.
yeah, but
And I
I
still feel like I got my money's worth out of it.
I liked World, and I feel like based on what I've seen, Rise has taken some lessons from World as far as making the franchise more accessible to people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are things about the look of Rise that don't really appeal to me. Like, I don't really like the wire thing, but
Yeah,
you know,
I played the demo and the wire takes some getting used to.
but yeah, I very much prefer the sort of use a big heavy weapon, plant yourself firmly on the ground and butt heads with the monster approach, rather than the pretending to be in a wire wushu film.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
from the demo anyway, once my copy actually arrives, I'll report on it a lot more. But there's some elements of the old Monster Hunter games that have snuck back in, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But there's other things like being able just to ride around on your dog and run over small creatures to get your buffs on the way to the monster. I'm not kidding, that's exactly what you do.
I don't think your opinion can be trusted where doggos are concerned.
Or
I think
Monster
you're
Hunter for that
biased.
matter.
But yeah, But yeah, they're doing well, and the good thing about this is that they are succeeding based on making a good game,
Yes.
which I think is the best thing that can happen in the free market.
You make a good product and people will buy it.
Yeah.
That's how it should work.
There was a story going around that where was it? There was a VR development company called Marcon that the CEO issued a formal day of leave for all non-executive employees working at the company for the release day of Monster Hunter Rise.
Oh, he's a smart man then.
Because so very many people would have just taken sick leave or whatever or not shown up. So he says, you know what, we'll just make this a company holiday.
Jeff Bezos, give me my copy. Damn you.
He serves you right for giving Bezos money.
I should not have given Bezos money.
But, yeah, so they're doing well based on making a good game. It's hard to believe that this is the Capcom of yesteryear, but it is.
Yeah, like, you see little peaks of the old Capcom still pop up every now and again, but...
Remember when we used Capcom as a verb?
Yeah, it used to be a pejorative. It used to be a pejorative, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what section of the company that is, because when was the last time they released a Street Fighter thing?
I'm still convinced that if you go to Capcom's office, or if you did when World was just about to launch, you opened their door and you weren't supposed to, then you would have gotten Dragonated. That's the only way I could have. I think that they got World out.
Where's my Dragonator?
Where's my Dragonator?
Yeah.
And same with the Devil May Cry studio, is you got stylishly disemboweled.
But yeah, so it seems to be a case of this at least this part of the company. Like, I don't know what their Street Fighter team is doing, or if their Street Fighter team has been
sitting
disassembled.
in the corner
going. From what I understand at Capcom, the individual development teams are fairly segregated from each other these days. Mm-hmm. They just they don't interact very much. I don't know.
I guess that explains why Monster Hunter doesn't have like a slideshow for a story.
Well, Monster Hunter was always segregated.
Yeah, but they've
had a cash cow and they didn't want to touch it.
Yeah, they've split everybody into groups and they're like, okay, guys, just kind of do your thing and get back to us with something. And as long as it sells, we don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's the advantage of. It's the advantage that is being forfeited by Sony, which is having a team that know their audience, being able to develop and respond to the mood of that audience.
Mm-hmm.
Like, anytime you try and do anything like ambitiously ranging outside that, you're taking a heavy and unnecessary risk. And while Monster Hunter World was very much calibrated to appeal to outside the Monster Hunter niche, they did so by improving on their basic formula, not by changing it.
Yeah.
It's iterative. Like every Monster Hunter game has been, it's iterative. They didn't overturn the way things were done. It's not like the situation where, I don't know, like what comes to mind? Age of Empires 2 versus Age of Empires 3.
Oh, Age of Empires 3 was awful.
Yeah, it's not like that. Yeah. It's not that, we need to broaden our appeal, therefore
let's make it a trading card game.
That will overturn the way the system works. No, they didn't do that. They just developed it. And improving gradually over time allowed them to keep their target audience. I mean, there are Monster Hunter vets that turned up their nose at World because they felt like it was for babies. But, you know, their loss in my opinion, because that game is gorgeous. But you know, they know their audience.
Yep.
And so they were able to shoot down the middle and their audience grows. They're growing their audience instead of trying to change it. Much in the same way they're developing their game rather than trying to change it. And that's the way you should do it. I think that this trend probably has a limit on it. Eventually someone is going to rise to a level of power where they can exercise a good idea and ruin everything for a generation. But the way things currently are is cool. So, they keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yep.
You do good. You're doing good, Capcom. Keep doing.
Speaking of people who are good at identifying their audiences and knowing them, Microsoft hired Shishiro Botan and Himemori Luna to advertise Xbox Game Pass in Japan.
Ah. Yeah.
I don't know how popular either of them is because they're only Japanese and I only see clips of them.
Oh.
Botan is 733,000 and Luna is 522,000.
And they got the Hololive brand on them.
They're sort of upper middle tier as far as the subscriber count goes for exclusively Japanese, and not one of the like crazy runaway hits with the foreign audiences like Hachima
or Fubuki.
But although, like I have mentioned in the past, Botan has a rather strong Russian contingent who are her fans.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a case of let's just prove we can sell anything by slapping a VTuber on it.
But I mean, that's just where they currently exist in the market right now.
Yeah,
like
they're a force.
Yeah, like it's much like other types of streamers. People will go out and buy a game that they play.
Mm-hmm.
See you play in Skyrim for 3-4 weeks.
Oh, actually, I think I started that before they started that, but it really got me back into it. But that's just the way it works. They're influential people. If you consume media, your mind will be operating in that vein, and you'll be more inclined to go along with it. Like lately, for instance,
Hollow Knight has been getting it.
Hollow Knight has gotten a lot of attention. I bet their sales have gone up. BPM was a very niche game, but it started to get picked up by a couple of Hololive EN people. Yep. Like I watched Ina playing it. I dread watching Gura play things these days because I just want to strangle her. But
she's so short brain.
Yeah, definitely. I watched part of her Resident Evil 2 stream. I watched a couple of hours of it, and it's just like they're Capcom puzzles, which means that they're silly, but they're usually obvious. But she's just like short brain. I can't solve this unbelievably simple puzzle because my brain is stuck in a short loop where the only thing I can think is swim, hungry.
Yeah, there is nothing going on between those ears. So, I still haven't really sat down and watched too much in the way of VTuber stuff. It's probably going to happen at some point.
Yeah, it's a background noise thing for me. But,
it's an inevitability.
But I like listening to Gura, except that when she runs up against a puzzle and the brain shuts down, and it's just like, oh, please, just you stupid shark, please, just solve it.
You ever watch somebody play a game and they're having trouble at a part, and you know the answer, and you haven't even played the game yet, and you just want to rip the controller away from their hands?
Just do it already.
Give it here. Let me do it.
I think that the part that really threw that into sharpest relief for me is that the traditionally in the Hololive EN group, Gura and Ina are treated as the dunces, typically.
Gura, rightly so.
But I didn't, because that's not my style of game. I didn't watch like whole streams of them, but I watched part of Gura's Visage stream and I watched part of Ina's Visage stream, and Ina accomplished in I think 10 minutes what took Gura 3 hours to do. Simply because Gura just sort of runs around in circles and walks into things, where Ina actually attempts to solve the problems presented to her. Like, I thought at first that Gura was just playing a character, but the actual obvious frustration with her inability to handle even the simplest concepts suggests to me that the shock brain is very real.
Where do you find someone like that?
They're all
janitors who've gotten too many fumes.
I guess.
Oh, that's right. She sniffed bleach. That's why her brain's so short.
I'm sorry, what?
She was a janitor.
Oh dear.
One of her previous part-time jobs was as a janitor, and she got a little bit too much of some of the chemicals.
Yeah.
She locked herself in a closet cleaning it and didn't notice the smell until she walked out, and she'd been huffing bleach the whole time.
No, that was my story. I think her story was a little bit different.
Oh, okay.
That was when I was demolding the bathroom at a previous flat. I shut the door, didn't realize I'd done so. The windows were shut, and
you
I nearly passed out in there.
Yourself?
Yes, it was quite bad. I
didn't
suffer any ill effects, but I couldn't stop wheezing, and I didn't know what was going on because it didn't even occur to me. And I think that it had put me in a mental state where it couldn't occur to me.
Oh,
And
dear.
eventually I just sort of stumbled out through the door, and then I got oxygen in my lungs again, and I realized what had happened.
And the brain started working again.
Yeah. But
Oh,
that's the one
bad.
one thing they teach you in process engineering class when they're teaching you their practical wisdom is never go into an enclosed area for any reason,
Mm.
because that's the highest number of people working in plants and engineers and floor staff alike. The biggest cause of death is asphyxiation,
Yeah,
because-
I can believe it.
because you'll go into an enclosed area and there'll be something in there and you won't know, and it will suffocate you, and you'll be none the wiser until it's too late. It's not because you get stuck in there or anything, it's because there's a lot of things that are like gases that are heavy, for instance,
Hmm.
will fall in there, and you can't see any difference between the air and the gas, but you go down there and there's no oxygen.
Yeah, you'll see this a lot in like under construction boiler rooms and stuff too. We're told on job sites, do not go anywhere there is an air pump for any reason until you talk to somebody on site first.
Yeah.
It can even
Does-
happen. It can even happen in IT, because
Mhm.
a lot of server rooms have got nitrogen blankets programmed to go off under like fire alarm conditions.
Hmm.
So if you're in there and you don't have a ready way out, and somebody does a fire drill and it sets off the the nitrogen blanket, it can kill a person in the server room.
Or even if one of them just has a fault or a leak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bad juju.
Business.
What were we talking about?
I don't know. Let's move on.
Botan and Luna.
Right. Okay. So this is my commentary on knowing your audience. Like they've got pull. They've got pull, man. I'm not a huge fan of either of them. I find Luna's a bit squeaky and Botan's a bit.
I don't like
inscrutable.
Luna at all. Like Luna, I can't stand. Have you heard her voice ever on like when she's a guest?
It's like literal nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah, the most obnoxious 3-year-old voice you can imagine. But I think I could like Botan if she played any games I cared about.
Isn't she an FPS fiend though?
Yeah, she totally is not in my wheelhouse with games.
Yeah. Even Ayame plays almost exclusively Apex these days, and I think that that's because she's still sort of on the mend and trying to find her groove again after a long period of sickness. But she's still entertaining to watch because of her character. But yeah. At any rate, they're doing a good job there. They've identified a market, they've identified the best means of reaching that market, and they have gone in full force, which has basically been characteristic of Microsoft as they have gone into this new generation. So they haven't hesitated and they haven't tried to do things the old way just because it's the old way, which has been the big problem with Sony. Is they've gotten locked in the way of thinking that, oh well, we're successful now, we don't need to do anything, we can just ride on the success indefinitely.
Yeah, Sony's other thing is when they try stuff the new way, their new way is always, what do them Americans over in California think we should do?
Ugh.
Ugh, don't listen
Americans
to
in
those
California.
people.
Nobody likes those
They poop
guys.
on the street. Don't talk to them.
Them people ain't people. Them people are degenerate blob monsters.
Blood monsters.
Yes. And now for something completely different. The Dynasty Warriors movie.
Yes! I'm actually I'm a little bit hyped for this.
Now, video game movies are always dumb.
Yes.
But if you know that going in, how then should you handle yourself?
By maximizing the dumb.
So, Dynasty Warriors is the basically the very example of the Musou genre, and is in fact where the Musou genre draws its name from.
Yes.
Everything that happens in Dynasty Warriors is overblown and silly to the nth degree,
Yes.
and they're making a movie about it. But they're not trying to do what Hollywood always does. They're just putting the game on the silver screen.
Yeah. So you've got people waving spears around and flinging like 300 guys up into the air in one swipe. You've got ridiculousness. You've got a guy who is surfing a horse through a rip wave.
Yeah, I thought that your comment that you put in the show host chat summed it up very well.
Where did I put that? Yeah, what did I say? Have you got it there already?
Oh, you can go up and find it.
I gotta find it again. Here we go. To be fair, so Dynasty Warriors, it's already poorly written, poorly acted, and dripping with cheese.
Yeah. So I mean, what more is there left for you to do?
You
Just
can't
find some
ruin
people.
it.
Find some people who are willing to have it on their resume.
Yeah. The only thing I think it needs to really complete the package is once they launch it in Japan, port it over to English, but with a really bad dub.
A really dramatic but really bad dub.
Dramatic but really bad dub.
And pronounce all the names wrong.
Yeah, bring back Cow Cow.
The cow. That was DW6, right?
I think that was 6, yes. It was just Cow Cow.
Cow.
And he was hardly the worst pronounced name.
Yes, indeed.
Are you trying to say Chow Chow?
Sao Sao.
Chow.
Okay.
Sao,
Sao.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, CIO. Oh, okay. I got
Yeah, no, that's Chow. CAO.
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 Yeah, CAO.
One of the most famous warlords of that period. One of the
Yes.
most powerful. There are like idioms involving him. Like in China, you don't say "speak of the devil" and he will appear. You say "speak of Cao Cao" and he will appear.
Yeah.
Because he was famous for being able to force march over huge distances and arrive at a battlefield very quickly.
He did stuff on the battlefield people previously thought was impossible.
Yeah,
And
he actually wrote a. He wrote one of the commentaries in my copy of Art of War.
Ooh, neat. And yeah, Cow Cow. So,
Yeah, I mean,
love you, Dynasty Warriors.
if you know that video game movies are always going to turn into a clown fiesta, just pick an IP that's already a clown fiesta. Don't don't give it the Super Mario Brothers treatment.
Honestly, actually, Super Mario Brothers movie is starting to get a bit of a resurgence.
Well,
It's just how
that's
awful it is.
because enough time has passed.
Yes.
I saw it when it first came to television, not long after it had come out, because it didn't do very well, and
That's
it was just unrecognizable and appalling and really confusing.
Yes.
To this day, I don't understand the story or if it even had one.
It.
Something guy is going to make all the humans turn back into monkeys, and there's a reptile city underground.
Yeah.
And when you shrink a person's head, that's how they become a Goomba. They're not mushrooms.
Yeah, they end up with giant bodies and tiny little heads, and for some reason, Bowser is not Bowser, but he's King Koopa, and he's a T-Rex.
And Dennis Hopper has the weirdest hair ever.
He does. What the hell?
Like, what did they do to his head?
Yeah. Also, Daisy has a Brooklyn accent. Actually, everyone has a Brooklyn accent.
Well,
Oh, shot.
isn't Brooklyn where the Italian Americans hang out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where canonically Mario and Luigi were supposed to be from. Is Brooklyn?
New York is where all the Italians in America settled from 1900 to 1970. Every single Italian moved to New York. That's why you had the Italian mafia based in New York and Chicago.
Yeah. So yeah, that movie makes absolutely no sense, but you can go back and watch it now and just enjoy it for the terrible ham fest that it is. Although people are going back and watching the Mortal Kombat movie and actually enjoying it as well.
I enjoyed the Mortal Kombat movie. I thought, so long as you ignore the actual attempts to tell a story, the choreography in a lot of the fights is actually very competent.
Yeah, it is. And they got a lot of the things right.
Anytime it attempts to be Mortal Kombat-y, it sucks.
Yeah.
But any time they're just doing, pure classic kung fu fighting, it's really good.
Well, to be fair, what's the plot of Mortal Kombat? And it's a plot that has not really changed over there. It's here is big fight tournament, take over world.
Well, and now it's about erasing racism and turning the entire world into Wakanda.
Right. It's still take over world through fight.
Yeah, and then turn it into Wakanda.
Turn it into Wakanda.
I do not know if it's true or not, but I heard it took them an abnormally long time to patch Jax to nerf him when he was clearly OP at one point with the new game.
Because they didn't want any scenario in which he could lose to a white person.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, aside from all of that nonsense. So, yeah, currently you've got people who are groaning their way through the Monster Hunter movie. Why? But yeah, you've had game movies that have been, I won't say good, but not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're okay.
Well, there is no good video game movie. There's watchable, and then there is maybe in 20 years we'll go back and laugh at how bad this was.
Yeah. And then there is Oh Dear Lord, Why?
You don't get too many of those.
No, usually they've got U-Bowl's name attached to them somewhere.
Yeah, but that's a director more than the video game.
Yeah, and he's only doing it for the tax cuts.
Yeah.
he's not doing it.
But if you say that, he will fight you.
Yes, he will. Which is one of the most cringy things you can possibly do.
Yeah.
But,
at least it's not a push-up contest when you know you can't out-push up the Orange Man.
Right.
Anyway, what else?
What else we got? I think we're running towards the bottom of the barrel here.
Oh, right. They made a new Hellgate London game.
Yeah, but why though?
I don't know. Does anybody alive now even remember it? Apart from old people like us?
The only reason I'm even aware of it is because Octail and Hordak brought up the first one.
The first
I remember
one
hearing
came
about
out
it when it
and it bombed
came
so
out.
bad they shut the servers down.
Yeah, and they tried to revive it as well. But,
Yeah, and it got a niche appeal, but I think those servers shut down as well.
Yeah, I remember it being hyped before it came out. It actually sounded like a really good idea. Execution, not so much.
Execution, not so much.
But
The,
apparently somebody thought that it was worth making another one, a prequel, in fact.
Yeah.
In VR.
The reviews are awful.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
it.
The reviews were not kind to Hellgate.
Do it.
No, I mean the current one.
Oh, of the current one? Yeah, that's fair.
Do it. You won't.
Do it.
How much they asking?
I have
No,
no idea.
you're damn right I won't.
What are they asking money for it? Like
Yeah,
$100.
they want $35 for this. Screw that.
You what? You what? How much do they think the Hellgate IP is worth?
That tree fitty. So that exists.
Wait, you can still buy Hellgate London on Steam? Does it still operate?
Maybe. I don't know.
What if all the servers are shut down? Then doesn't that mean that?
Oh, it's just a single player game now. They've just turned it into a single player game.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
I do like, actually, you look at the article we found, and even they say Hellgate gets a prequel for some reason.
Well, it's completely inexplicable. Nobody was eagerly anticipating the next Hellgate London property.
No. Most people forgot that it existed at all.
I can only assume that the VR one was something that was basically made by someone in their spare time as sort of a joke.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's about all we've really got. I know I linked that study about the loot boxes in there, but do we really want to talk about loot boxes?
Well,
Not really.
the only thing it's doing is making the conclusion that loot boxes are gambling, and everybody knows that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't play the gacha thinking that I'm not gambling.
You're totally gambling.
Yeah,
That's
I'm gambling
I'm not.
through JPEGs. Ari's not gambling because he always gets whatever he wants,
Yeah.
but the rest of us are gambling.
Yeah, that is the dictionary definition of gambling. So that's that. And now there's a study out there that apparently agrees from a major university. Because apparently it takes
Well, I
a
mean-
major university to decide these things.
Well, the purpose of this, like most things that academia do, and I think I've explained this on previous shows, it's not about discovering anything.
Mhm.
The purpose of the academic establishment is to gather power shed by bureaucratic states. Because bureaucrats don't take responsibility for anything. Their job is to not take responsibility for things. They're just bureaucrats. And so in order to not take responsibilities for things, they get experts to take responsibility for things. So they part out money to those institutions, and in their position of being the experts, they get power as well. So basically, academia's purpose in the modern world is not to discover anything, it's to just gather power to itself and acquire the money to sustain itself perpetually, much like a bureaucracy does. So the purpose of the study is not because somebody thought that it wasn't gambling. The purpose of the study is somebody has purchased from the academic establishment a data point to use in lobbying in court cases. That's what this is.
Mm-hmm.
That's how academia works. It's why I'm not a part of academia anymore. I love my science, I love my research, but that doesn't take place in academia anymore. I was born in the wrong century for that.
Yup.
So what this is basically is somebody has purchased a data point to use in one of the many loot box related lawsuits and political lobbying efforts that are taking place at present. We've reported upon them in the past. There's a lot of them. Somebody has just thrown some money behind the success of those.
It's either that or it's been going long enough that someone's probably done their thesis on it.
Oh, well, I mean, sure, people have, but theses require money.
Yes.
They aren't free. Somebody's got to pony up the cash in order to get those done. And when you need a data point to support your lobbying, you purchase a postgrad student to do their thesis on it, and then you use that to support your point of view.
Mm-hmm. So that's what's likely happened here.
Yeah, that's why the study suddenly exists at a time where it's critical.
Yes.
And you'll notice that these studies always exist at a time that it's critical.
Yes.
It's not like loot boxes are new, but there being several major national level lawsuits running around the world regarding them, that is a new thing. Therefore, the study has suddenly been done.
Yep. So yeah, it's not going to change much, but it exists now. Alrighty, do we have anything else, or shall we start packing up?
Oh, I don't think I've got anything else to talk about myself.
I don't.
My throat's starting to get a little bit raw because I was driving a lot of this.
That's what happens when you follow the news.
Yeah, I was so zonked I didn't even take a minute to look for news. I've done nothing this week. I want this week to end. In fact, I want everything to end except my life.
Just end it all.
I just want to stop adulting. Give me some free time again.
Be gone, foul thought. Alright.
So yeah. I don't think we got anything else. Oh, I did want to share with the world something I dug out of old school RuneScape way last week and had sitting around in my image folder.
Oh yes, this thing.
There was a quest that I stumbled across. And you will notice the quest objective there about a certain thing being a hoax that I was surprised they didn't somehow have a lobbying group trying to censor, especially because they're based in the UK. Now, this is an old-ass quest, so it's been around forever, but seeing return and to inform her that the plague is a hoax made me bust out laughing.
Alrighty. And with that, let's get out of here.
All right, folks. Closing comments for us and us out.
I don't want to adult anymore.
Nor do
I don't either.
I've got to go back to work this coming week. I wish I'd taken more time off, but they wouldn't have let me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm taking maybe Monday. I can't afford to. I would like to take Monday off and give myself some time to rest, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah. I'm hoping I'll get my copy of Monster Hunter Rise during the upcoming week, but when Amazon did send it, they didn't provide me with a shipping number, so I can't track it.
Herp derp.
Herp-de-derp. So there's that. I'm not sure why, because normally they just attach it to the order number and you just go in through there and find it. But
yeah, normally there's a big old button that says track your package.
yeah, there was that button. They're not there now.
So yeah. All right, folks. I think we're done. We'll see you next week. Sayonara. Bye-bye.